Yeah. Are we? Am I gonna be able to see you, or no?
If you open up the stream, yes, but otherwise probably not because I'm not sure. I mean, I could do like the OBS thing, but you'd see yourself if that's
Oh,
something you
but you
want.
won't. You can't turn your camera on in Discord.
Um, I could, but because it's being used by OBS, it'll turn it off on my stream.
Oh.
I could do that though, if that's something you want to do, and I could just stream the Discord window.
Ye I wait. How am I doing it? I think my camera is being used by both. Is that possible?
Mine does. Mine doesn't work that way. I can turn off my other
Maybe.
thing here. My
Yeah.
turn.
I think because I'm using an Elgato, I think it can like do too.
Okay, let me see here. Um,
But yeah, I want to put you on my stream too, if if you want.
yeah. 1 sec. Let me figure this out.
Okay.
So I need to disable this from here because we don't want this using it. Prime. All right. This should work, I think. And
Nice.
I'm
Okay.
turn off alerts on my end real quick because they're going to get annoying really fast.
Yeah, I haven't set those up yet, but it seems horrible. I kind of don't want to.
To turn off your alerts.
I kind of don't want to ever have alerts.
Oh, I don't blame you then. Um, I could understand that.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, it just doesn't feel like, it's not classy.
Um, I think there's classy ways of doing it. I think if it's just like a quick little jingle, it's not all that intrusive.
Right.
And people do like having their like TTS message on the screen. And you already have, I think, like 800 viewers or something. So with your chat moving so quick, sometimes people aren't able to get their message seen, and they don't want to like copy paste over and over. So they'll pay the $5 and just have it say the thing.
Uh, hostile design. That's what that's called. Uh, wait, that's not what I want. Cancel. Oh, okay. Nice.
Alrighty, I'm all set on my end, so just let me know and we could jump into it.
Yeah, it's looking good. Um, no one is saying anything in my chat, which makes me think my window's broken or something. Is that possible? Oh, wait.
It
What? This is confusing.
at the very beginning of stream, I tend to open my channel up just to make sure that it like hits correctly.
Yeah, I just checked on. Sorry, This is my third time, my third stream ever, so I'm a little confused.
You're fine. You're fine.
Oh, okay. Now my chat. Now I can see my chat. There are no mods. Mod free zone. Oh shit. Do I have to like coordinate with my mods? Have
Um,
fun. Bookfucker is a good dude. Nice. All right. That's a great nickname. I was like wondering why I didn't see anything. I think I don't know. I should have reopened the chat. All right. Mod me. Should I trust people who ask me to mod them? Is that done? Is that a
it's
trap?
really tough at the beginning because you don't know anybody. I usually pick the
Right.
people that come around all the time and seem sane.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So somebody said I have three mods now. I don't. Okay. We'll just see what happens.
Mm.
If I get banned, I get banned. Not the first time. It won't be the last. Okay.
I don't know if it'll be your chat that gets you banned. I'll say that.
Yeah. Maybe we'll get each other banned right now. Uh,
Possibly.
uh, how's it going?
Good. How's everything going with you? You're Mr. Popular, so that must be Good or stressful?
It's a bit overwhelming. I mean, if you like, if you've heard the things people have said about my past, you know I'm not very used to that. You know,
Hmm.
so it's a little overwhelming. Um, I'm like a porcupine. Like I'm ready for attack. I don't know how to deal with like. Obviously, I'm getting a lot of attacks, but the good attention is outweighing the negative, which I mean that's happened before, but not like this. This is the most overwhelming thing I think.
Hmm.
I don't know. I don't know. Cuties was pretty bad. Cuties was pretty bad. I'm functional still mostly. With cuties, I was not.
What do you mean by functional?
Um, sleeping 3/4 of what I need to sleep instead of half. Um, flipping out and screaming at Shaylin less than once a day. Well, on average, I'd say I'm averaging zero point 0.5 flip outs per day instead of like three.
Okay.
The cuties review, that was like I was not doing well.
Uh-oh.
Um, yeah, those are my two main. How much I'm screaming at Shaylin, how much I'm sleeping. You know, still exercising and stuff. Still bathing. I took a shower. That was pretty
That's
cool.
good.
Yeah,
When you got all that criticism about the cutie stuff, how much of that do you think is coming from people who didn't watch cuties?
99%. Right.
Yeah.
Most people who are mad about cuties haven't seen cuties, which is understandable. Like like I'm mad about child porn, and I've never seen child porn. And if somebody was like, "Well, you haven't even seen it. How are you going to critique it?" I'm like, "Well, I don't need to see it to critique it." So I understand from their point of view. If they think it's literally porn, then yeah, they can critique it without seeing it. I get that's I think that's the central argument. Like, is it child porn or is it a movie? And then so I
Hmm.
think that's part of the problem I think that people had with my cuties review is that I talked about it like it was a movie, like that's just a fact that it's not child porn. And then I think within the I assume you also agree it's not child porn, it is a movie.
Right.
Or you wouldn't have watched the whole thing. So, right?
Well, I was obligated to. Like, we hit like a dono goal, but I enjoyed it.
But
I would watch it again.
at a certain point, if you'd been like, "Oh, this is 100% just like child porn," you would have turned it off.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
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 Me too. So I assume our discussion's going to be within the it's a movie framing of what's happening.
A little bit. So when you're talking about people were under the impression it was child porn and for that reason chose to disengage with it entirely,
Yeah.
I do think that your review did, in my opinion, do a really good job of pointing out some of the themes in the movie and pointing out like how it is a movie. And it was a good movie. It was a decent movie. At the same time, however, you open up and have at several points this talk about how the children were sexualized in a way that you thought was successful, and that as somebody who normally would not be attracted to children, you were attracted to or found the girls in the movie hot. And I think that things like that fueled other reviewers and people who chose not to watch it, like Moist Critical, who referenced you at several points and referenced those quotes to
You're
like
saying it's my fault
say,
that he never watched it?
in part, sure.
That's funny.
I think a little bit. Like, do you not feel like you are one of the influences to people, leading them to believe it's child porn and not something to be engaged with as a movie?
I never thought of that because it's a review, but like I think of it as a reaction. But I agree that in the real world, millions of people have seen cuties and never talked about it. Like in an offline world, and I don't even know if they know what's happening in our world.
Yeah.
And then in our world, there's there's a totally different set of norms and standards. Like I don't if Moist Critical, like if his like aunt or something was like, I'm a feminist and like I just saw this new movie on Netflix, you got to check it out. Let's watch it together. And then he watches Cuties with his aunt and like his cousins and family and whatever after Thanksgiving dinner. Okay, I don't think his reaction would be to say like, this is child porn. Somebody needs to go to jail. What the fuck is happening? This is the most disgusting thing I've ever fucking seen in my life. I definitely think, whether he wants to know it or not, my view is that he would probably have a much more muted, normal world reaction to the film. And he might be like, hey, well, that was a little weird. And it is a little weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I didn't think about this before, but I think you make a good point that if you've seen some gross guy talking about how it was mildly successfully arousing, or that they looked hot or whatever, then that could prime you. You're saying this is my fault. But people were outraged because of the Netflix poster first. That's why I watched it. Because people were super mad about the poster.
Yeah, when we're saying something like it's your fault, and this is something that I think will become clear as we talk, but is something I'd like to get out of the way. I'm not one of these like debate bro-y people, though I'm in the circles with them. I talk about like optics and empathy and stuff like that. So when you're saying it's your fault, I don't want you like I'm not trying to say it's completely your fault or something like that. There was a lot going on here, from like other people and what they're saying to the poster.
You're saying there was already a vector happening, and I nudged it in a certain direction, but it was already kind of going toward that direction. I understand.
Yeah, because you became like a reference in multiple different reviews that I saw about like this kind of child porn angle.
Right.
And I do think that opening up the entire review with this like, hey, this successfully like sexualized children to me, and I don't even normally feel this way about kids, but I thought those kids were hot.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if I know nothing about you, I don't know that you make songs about pedophiles and whatever. And at the time, you didn't make all that stuff, so people wouldn't know. It, from their perspective, like, damn, this normal, albeit a little bit weird dude, like, got converted to like thinking children were attractive, like just by watching this movie. That's frightening. I don't even want to give this a shot.
Yeah, that's fit. That's You think they're afraid it was going to turn them into... You think it's like The Ring? Like you watch Cuties and then 7 days later you're a pedophile?
Maybe to some people they worried about that. I think to other people just hearing that it could fill that purpose was enough for them. But I think some people at least were afraid of that as well. Like, I don't want to watch a movie that makes me feel attracted to kids or puts them in those situations where it even might.
And yet you took the risk. Well, people are also just disgusted by the idea of pedophiles getting off. Like when I said there's thousands of people masturbating to this movie as we speak, people are really horrified by that in particular. And I'm like, that just seems obviously true. Like there's no way that's not true.
Sure. Why is that an important thing to communicate about the movie in your opinion, though?
Well, I was trying to acknowledge people's concerns that like this is pedo bait, or pedophiles are going to, like, I just saw a lot of people, I think, or maybe I'm just imagining I remember this, but my sense was that people were very concerned about pedophiles enjoying the movie. And like the idea of like, well, like if you upload like a like your daughter's gymnastics competition, whatever, right? And you upload it on YouTube because you're proud of how good she does at gymnastics. And then all of a sudden you see the video has 25 million views like 6 months later. I'm sure there is a feeling of like, oh, whoops. Wait a second. Like, that's not a good feeling. And so I think this is somewhat an extension, like something in that ballpark of like, I don't want to watch a movie that's not porn, but that thousands of people are using as child porn. So I can kind of understand that. So I was just addressing it like, hey, if you're worried about that, this is true. That's like, there's no debate there. I think that's just watching it seems clear.
Sure. See, having also watched it though, if I were to make a similar review to you, like to be clear, the reason why I watched it was because we hit a donation goal for it, and then everybody wanted to watch it, so I'm kind of obligated to watch it start to finish.
Well, who created the donation goal?
I didn't think they would hit it, honestly.
Who created the donation goal? Let's investigate this claim a little bit. Yeah, my chat. If you hit this donation goal, I'm gonna stick a cucumber up my ass on camera. I'm like, oh, I never thought it would actually happen. Oh my! I think that you if I may, I think you were hedging a bit and saying like, I don't want to say guys were watching cuties. I want to say like as a joke, if you like, if you guys want to watch cuties, I'll watch cuties, and then you're like, okay, if you're gonna make me. But like, I feel like at some level you had to be kind of gauging their interest in cuties,
Yes,
and they were
but
so interested that they paid you to watch it.
yes.
Okay.
I think maybe a more fair way of saying this, because I do get what you mean, is I watched it out of professional interest. If it was like, it wouldn't be out of personal interest. But the only reason that I'm not
I feel like
personally
you're distancing
interested,
yourself from me, and I don't like that.
okay. Um,
Are you?
well, why did you watch Cuties in the first
Why
place
why
then,
why do
I
we have to
guess?
say why we watched cuties? I feel like the only reason to
Um,
say that is to have a I'm not a pedophile contest.
okay. I think it's to have an I'm not a pedophile contest.
Like, why bring it up? Like if you were like, hey, did you see the new Matrix? And I'm like, yes, but I watched it for professional reasons. What you'd be like, well, why? What are you worried I think about you?
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's I can see that. I think that that's reasonable. The to be transparent with you, and you can believe me or not, the only reason that I mentioned that is so that the viewers understand that there was a goal to get there. It's not to say that
But
like,
why do you want them? Why do you want them to
I'm
understand
not a
that?
pedophile because they paid for it or something. That's not really what I'm trying to
Why do you
communicate.
want them to understand why you watched Cuties? In my review, I never talked about why I watched Cuties.
If I pull back the curtain of Oz, it's because I want to do more of that stuff in the future, and I want them to know that like we're gonna do that with other things moving forward. So like,
But if you say you're interested in it, then you can't get them to pay you for it. So you have to say you get yeah, you guys can make me watch whatever movie you want, but it's gonna cost you. Okay,
exactly. So
I
it's
get it.
more of
I
a
get it.
marketing thing that it is like I don't want to seem like I'm weird. I didn't want to watch this. It's
Okay,
more of like
I'm very defensive about this.
I understand, dude,
Yeah,
because I've seen your
I just want
conversations.
to establish trust, but I'm doing the opposite. So I apologize. Let's continue.
No, I like the transparency. I can work through it. It doesn't make me super uncomfortable.
Okay, unlike some
So
people.
yeah, like some people, some unnamed people.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, when so you saw it was a problem that other people were mentioning, and you wanted to kind of let them know, yeah, that problem it does exist here.
I don't think it's a problem.
Okay,
I think I'm all for. I have I'm of two minds about pedophiles masturbating to images of children that are not child porn. One is like I've had the experience of not being able to like get off for long periods of time, and I would say that that does make me more likely to do bad things.
okay,
On the other hand, I can also see the argument that the more raunchy or extreme pornography you view, you become desensitized to it and want more. Like the slippery slope argument. I've heard both arguments, and experientially, I guess I've experienced both. So, and the whole idea of like photorealistic CGI, like CP, is that gonna normalize it to the extent that they become more predatory? I don't know, but I guess I'm saying I'm not totally against the well, first of all, just as a human right, I feel like we have some right to get off. And second of all, and it doesn't like if I fantasize about like my coworker or something, it's I'm not hurting them. So like I do I feel like I have a um moral stance there of like I can fantasize about whatever I want. And then I have a question of like the harm to the person themselves. Like it's not good for you to be a pedophile. So doing things that make you more of a pedophile is bad for you. And it's not good for society to have pedophiles, so doing things that make more of them is also bad. Um, but it's possible that lolly and stuff like that makes people less likely to offend, or maybe neither and just makes them happier. I don't know. So I don't view people jerking off to cuties as a problem.
okay. That makes sense to me when we come all the way back around with the explanation. Yeah.
I view it as something that people are very upset about. And maybe they're right. It might be a problem. I don't know. I don't think anybody knows. I guess that's where I'm at.
Okay. So when you were kind of conveying that people may be masturbating to this, what do you think your goal was aside from like confirming those people's beliefs? Was there any goal beyond just saying, "Yep, that's probably happening"?
Can I ask you something? One of my viewers wants you to explain the RGR fantasizing about coworkers take. Do you want to talk? Is that relevant?
Yeah, because she has this kind of weird system of like believing in like consent and sexual stuff. So she actually thinks that you are violating somebody else's consent by creating an image of them in your mind and violating that, whether you tell them or not. But she also believes that if you go out in public and you are wearing attire to make you feel sexually gratified, like oh, I feel good, I feel like I'm sexy, I feel like other people looking at me and thinking I'm sexy makes me feel good, and so I'm going to wear clothes that I think makes me feel good in that way. She also thinks that that is violating the consent of other people because you're using their eyes and their vision and their uh, their view on you to get off, and she thinks that's violating people's consent. So she doesn't really have a good system that I think gives us helpful answers.
I think both of those are insane
Yeah, I don't think they're very smart or thought out.
because yeah, it just means. I mean, it just makes consent violations so extraordinarily common that it's really an argument for violating people's consent rather than an argument against doing those things.
You could definitely take it in that direction. That would
Well, I
be
mean,
a
like
fun
if you're gonna if
direction
you
to argue.
right, because like to me, the violating consent it's like a sliding scale, and we're gonna have to draw a line somewhere, and drawing it here when we all already want to be here seems like a consent deconstruction argument, which is like kind of strange.
Yeah, and this is why I think empathy is something we need to push more in this space. And I'm happy to hear that that's something that you believe in. Because if RGR were to empathize with other people, I think she would figure that out really quick. The problem is RGR, like when her debate interlocutor said, "Well, I wear clothes like to feel sexually gratified. Does that mean that I'm violating people's consent?" And she's like, "Yeah, of course. Wait, you're telling me you wear clothes to feel like sexually gratified so you can like sexually get off?" I
Right.
don't do that at all. I never wear anything to do like, well, okay, well, you're very different than other people because other
Yeah.
people that's like a fairly normal thing. But because she's not empathizing at that level and she's not willing to, she's never really going to get the problems in what she's arguing.
Yeah. I think that's goofy. Somebody said this was in the context of children being around BDSM attire at Pride events.
That's how it started. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like if you like bringing your kids to Pride, like they're gonna see an ass. That's been my experience at every Pride event I've ever been to. Like, I guess we just need to iron out like, is that gonna happen or not, and then we can stop being surprised one way or the other. I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, so my intent in bringing that up, I think I was just kind of thinking through like what like I've been through the singularity, you know. I know what's on the other side and I'm reporting back. And one of the questions that the human race asked me before I went through was like, is it porn or not? Are people masturbating to it or not? So I just wanted to be like, to the answer to your first question is yes.
Okay. Okay. That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Um, One thing you said that I'm not sure I agree with you on, and actually maybe like a fun jumping off point to talk about some more topics around sexuality and aesthetics and attraction, is you said the purpose of this movie, at least in part, is to make you sit with this idea of, on the one hand, these are underage women,
Yeah.
and on the other hand, they're hot. Do you still stand by that being one of the main purposes or the main things that the movie is doing, or?
I think that is one of the main inner conflicts or cognitive dissonance the movie is trying to create in you. Um, I assume for the purpose of you resolving that cognitive dissonance by saying, just because someone is hot, that doesn't mean that they're an adult. It doesn't mean that they're like ready or that they're matured. So I feel like the scene where the kids are eating gummy bears in the bed is like the most childish scene. And it's kind of bookended by them twerking, and when they're twerking, they're copying the like teenage girls that they've seen on the social media.
Hmm.
So I assume that like definitely there's a juxtaposition there. So to me, the juxtaposition was to create discomfort in that one moment you're looking at them, like, they're acting like they're like four almost, like they're acting younger than they are. Um, and then suddenly they're acting, I maybe 4 years younger and then 4 years older. I guess in the movie they're 11, but in real life they're like 12 to 14. So,
Mm.
um, yeah, I do stand by that.
Okay. When you say that the movie is trying to create this, well, do we mean that like this is the director's intention or the production's intention, or who do we think is injecting that like purpose into the media?
Um, I don't know. Because you could have edited it could be edited in a completely different way where that would not come across like that. Um, I think that's why I said the movie is doing it because I don't know anything about the director or her intentions, and I don't. Um, I think I don't care.
Okay.
You know, like I feel like a piece of art or anything. Like I think you've already said things about the review that were not what I was intending to do. To like you're basically saying the review is almost a horror movie, and where I'm saying if you watch Cuties, you might this might be what happens to you, and that
Mhm.
effect has that the effect of that is that it terrifies people into not wanting to see the movie. That was not my intention to make it into a horror movie or to make like The Ring for Cuties. But I will agree with you if you said that's what the video is trying to do to me. I can, even though I made it in every step of the way, I could say like it is kind of doing that. I see what you mean. That's the effect it's having. So I don't mean any intention. I just mean that's the that's what I think it does, or like what's it's designed to do, even if that's not, you know, what the designer had in
Okay.
mind.
Yeah, I mean like I can understand that and work with that for sure. Like the way that I would describe it is like incidental. It's incidental that it creates this situation in some viewers' minds where on the one hand they're children and on the one hand they're hot. Because this on the one hand they're hot thing, I think is more subjective than objective. Like I think it's I think you may overstate how many people are going to find the children in this movie hot. Like,
I don't think so. I think they're objectively hot.
okay, if you were to guess what percentage of the audience that watched Cuties found the women sexually attractive, what percent would you say?
Well, what do you mean by found sexually attractive? Because
Hot.
when I say hot, I don't mean like literally drooling, falling. You know, like it's not like I have like a super strong reaction to seeing a hot person. So I would say, let me put it this way: if everyone in the audience were in a socially acceptable situation where it was okay to determine to answer whether they're hot. So like if your say your son is 12 and he's like you're like, oh, there's going to be these group of girls at this like a function that we're going to, and he says like, oh, are they hot? You like I think most people, if they saw the girls and then they're like had a socially acceptable reason to say yes, they'd be like, well, yeah.
Okay. Because I don't really.
You
Like
think they were
I would
ugly?
say, I don't think about children in that way and like hot
But
or
you're being
ugly.
but now you're being asked to. Are you saying you can't?
No, I can empathize with you and
I'm,
like
oh,
go,
no,
okay,
no, 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 no. See,
well, they're wearing
I'm gonna,
stripper
I
clothes
need
and
to
they're
revoke,
twerking, like.
I need to revoke my apology earlier for being defensive. I do think that I do think that you're trying to come out of this a little cleaner than it's going to be possible to.
we have a difference of opinion, but I think
No,
that's where
I
it's
don't.
coming from.
I
But
don't think we have a difference of opinion.
okay,
I think that you are now claiming that you are unable to determine attractiveness in 12-year-old humans.
attractiveness to other 12-year-olds and to pedophiles.
Objective,
Hold on.
objective attractiveness.
Can I like think for 2 seconds?
You can think
Because
for 2 minutes. I
I
have no problem with silence. We can sit here. I will think my thoughts, and you'll think yours, and no pressure.
so am I intellectually like capable of it? The answer is yes. But am I capable of forcing myself to feel it? The answer is no. Does that seem like a more fair answer to you? Like I would really struggle to
I think
like
it's an impossible answer, and
this one.
you need to have. Okay, when you were 12, could you tell whether a 12-year-old was hot? Did you
Um,
find some 12-year-olds more attractive than others?
Probably yeah.
And you could
Yeah.
and you could feel it.
Yes.
Okay, but when you think back to when you were 12 and think about the people that you thought were hot and the people you thought were ugly, you're saying that your innate physiological radar for whether someone is sexually attractive has been decommissioned and no longer functions.
No, that's usually what I go back to like try and understand that. Like I can intellectualize it. I don't feel that anymore. And even when I was younger, I was generally more attracted to older people, like women that were hotter to me because like a lot of the women that I was growing up with weren't. And the ones that I did think were hot or were cute or I was sexually attracted to were kind of already showing early signs of like the things that I already liked in older women. So that was to give you insight into like my experience when I was younger. That's how it is. So I go
Yes,
back to that to try and
you've always
understand.
been attracted to well-adjusted 25-year-old women. But what if
Oh, 12-year-olds too, like I said. But like, yeah, I was also, I'm just trying to be full transparency. Like, yeah, there was also a lot of
I
older
don't
women.
think this is a transparency. I think this is obfuscation. Because here's what you're claiming. You're claiming that when you see a
Uh,
12-year-old twerking, and then if you're in it, you've been paid to watch cuties, so now you're forced to have this awful conversation with me where someone's asking you if you can
it's
tell
not
whether
awful.
the 12-year-old is hot. You're saying that in order to determine, looking at a 12-year-old, is she hot, you don't innately know. So you need to pull upon a few resources. So you say, well, if I was still 12, let me compare her to the kinds of 12-year-olds that I used to find hot when I was 12, because I now have no way to determine this. Or I can go by what I would guess other people would think about this person, and then synthesize that into some sort of educated hypothesis about whether she's hot. I don't believe that is the mechanism by which you are doing that,
Why not?
because you're human. And I don't think that um, just as I can tell you which 90-year-olds are hotter than other 90-year-olds, even though I'm not particularly sexually focused on them, I can still tell you which one I would rather fuck.
Sure. Are you asking me which one I would rather fuck, or are you asking me which one I'm saying I would think is attractive, like to people that would be attracted to them? Because I think those are two different things.
Listen, I think that if we're going to talk about which of the cuties we'd most want to have sex with, first of all, we'd probably be violating TOS.
Sure.
So I don't want us to get
Maybe.
banned.
Yeah. Yeah.
Second of all, I feel like I'm going to need to see a scuba tank and full body scuba gear from you to go diving in waters that are that deep and murky. I feel like, you know.
Okay.
So I think that we should just keep it to, um, can you just like the
Attractiveness.
dog's question? Can you tell which dog you'd rather fuck? And how do you think you're doing that? And
Yeah.
so or what tell which dog is more hot or whatever. So, uh, yeah, I guess we can agree to disagree. I just don't believe you that you went. I mean, can you tell which ones are more cute? I guess that's why I said this in the review. I think cute is a stand-in for sexually attractive. I don't think there's really a difference.
Yeah. Actually, on my document, that was like the next point that I wanted to transition us into is that talking about like Cute and cuteness leads to hotness, and hotness is sexualness. So you're like, we're only ever a few steps removed when we're saying something like that, like cute. I don't agree with that either. Like, I don't want you to think that I'm being bad faith or whatever. I really do think we just have very different outlooks on stuff. That's why I thought it would be interesting to talk with you about this in particular. So,
I
like with
don't. I don't.
cute,
I. I know you don't want me to. Why would you want me to think you're bad faith?
because you said you don't believe me, but I've like explained really truthfully like how I'm
Well,
internalizing this.
I don't believe you. I don't know if that
Okay.
means you're bad faith. It just means that you're careful.
Do you think I'm lying to you though?
I think there is some percentage of it that you're lying to me, and some percent that you're lying to yourself. And I am trying to work out which is which.
Okay. So when I say bad faith, I'm mostly talking about like you're assuming that I'm lying rather than like giving you honest answers and stuff like that.
Um, yeah,
Okay.
I don't. Um, I don't think the things I'm saying now are things that most people readily know about themselves, which is, I think, some part of why people reacted so bad to the review. Whereas I said in the review, like, I already knew this. I said the review makes you face the fact that you can be attracted to 12-year-olds, but I'm like, I already knew that, so I'm not. That's not surprising to me.
Yeah. But what is surprising to you is that may be a more unique to you experience than you originally thought. Whereas you think every human experiences that, maybe that isn't the case.
No, that's not. I mean, it's not surprising to me because I don't think it's true.
But you were surprised and well,
I'm not surprised at all. No, I know that most people don't know this about themselves or can't talk about it, especially in front of hundreds of people.
but how do you,
I
why do
think
you
that that's
think
part of
that?
what people are reacting about with me as like the new like Twitch whatever is that
Mhm.
I know that about myself. B, I'm willing to say it to myself, and C, I'm also willing to say it to you. So I'm not surprised. No, I'm not surprised by your reaction or anything you're saying. No.
Sure. Okay. Surprise, maybe not the best word, but I mean, you don't believe me, and you wouldn't believe other people that would tell you they're living a different experience. But I think that would be tough for you to know because you're kind of limited to just your experience and maybe the people that you talk to. I think like
I don't think that's
with
true.
it,
I think. Uh, do you agree that your average Twitch streamer, say we've been I've been learning the same circles as you, right? So we know some of the same people. So let's say out of the 10 people that we co-orbit, um, how many of them do you think would admit to themselves that they can be attracted to a 11-year-old if they could?
probably few. They care a lot about that optics stuff. Yeah.
No, just to
I
themselves.
think.
How many of them would know themselves experientially?
Oh,
How many could admit to themselves if they saw cuties, they thought the girls were hot? We both agree. Like we know people
maybe
who.
like 60%, honestly, as long as they don't have to say it to anybody else.
Okay, so you think only 40% of people would delude themselves out of this information?
Probably, yeah.
Okay, and then of the 60%, we agree that none of them would admit this on stream, except
I
me.
think Steven or Bosch might be able to, and
Okay,
Bosch
but
really cares about that
at
stuff.
60%, we would expect one of the two of them, most likely, or even both of them, to have experienced this. But you're telling me that if I asked Vosh, did you find the girls and cuties hot, he would answer that directly and honestly?
No, you would have to really wring that out of him. I don't think he
Okay, so
would.
I guess my my point is that you're saying 60% of people would admit it. So let's say my hypothesis is 100% of people, not just men,
To
everyone.
themselves. Yeah.
Yeah, 60% admits themselves, and how many people admit it in public?
Ooh,
What percent?
probably
What
much
percent of the
less.
60 would then admit it in public?
It's an interesting question. It would have to be pretty low, eh? Um, gosh, maybe like 5 to 15%, somewhere in that
You
window.
think 15% of people, 15% of Twitch streamers who found the girls and cuties hot would say that on stream?
Yeah.
I think that you are.
Like
I think you are.
this is assuming you do a good job of trying to wring it out of them. If you just ask the question up front, I think you're really looking at like maybe 1 to 2%. I don't think anybody would like engage with that question on its face. But I think in a
Okay.
conversation, you could get them to admit that.
Okay. Just on their own, we're looking at 0.6% of Twitch streamers.
I'm not good at math, but I'll take your word for it. Yeah,
Okay,
maybe
so
0.6%.
you can see why you're saying, Max, you're the only person who thinks this because I'm the only person saying it. It's a public conversation. We already both agree that there's only 60% of people. I think the number's lower than 60%, but I'll go with your number. Even by your figures, we would expect only about one person to be saying this anyway.
Yeah,
So, right, so that's why your response of like, but hey, but we're all telling you that's not what we're experiencing. Well, by your own estimations of that's what I expect you to say. I expect
sure.
everybody but me to say that, even if I'm right, and
And
and also if I'm wrong. So it's not, to me, it's not conclusive. It's not evidence that I'm wrong. That people are saying like, well, I didn't experience that. I'm like, well, of course you're going to say that.
to be clear, and this is more for the audience. I'm sure that you're aware of this. When we're doing all these percentages, we're already pulling them from a group of people that feel this way about the Cuties movie. And what I'm saying is like the group of people that
In
already
my
felt that way.
well,
Oh,
we
go
have
ahead.
two hypotheticals. In my hypothetical, that's everyone.
Yes.
So if I'm right, we would still only expect about one prominent Twitch streamer, now me, to say this.
Even in your situation where we assume everybody has it, maybe. I think there's a lot more smaller Twitch streamers. I think, but we're splitting hairs. It would be like I would say 2 to 5, but you would say one. I don't think it makes too big of a difference. Yeah, it
Yeah,
would
but
be very, very few.
yeah, my point is just that you can see how, from my point of view, everybody else in publicly saying this isn't true is actually not evidence against my view or your view.
I yes, yes.
So I think we just have to leave it that it's inconclusive because self-reporting is unreliable because people don't know how they're feeling all the time and then they lie. So like Twitch, talking about Twitch streamers are inherently dishonest. Social media is a place to lie about yourself to make yourself look good for money. So that we can't pull each other.
Okay.
So I just reject the idea that that there is evidence that I'm wrong. But I mean, you could be right. You're right. We're talking about things people don't even know they're feeling. So I'm basing it on kind of like other evidence and my other sense of what's going on, and a kind of harsh, brutal honesty I try to have with myself, and then like some weird studies that are not super reliable but indicate that uh, men know, like if you took uh, a ugly girl and a hot girl and put them on an island with 100 non-pedophile prisoners or rapists. I think that if they ended up raping the girls, you would be able to look at the two girls and say, I kind of innately, I know which one they're going to rape. And that doesn't mean you're a pedophile. It just means that like you can tell when a 12-year-old is hot. And then so like
Yeah.
I think we should just move on to the cuteness conversation, because to me that's the same thing.
Okay.
When you say, oh look, he's so cute or she's so cute, or even a dog, the dog's cute, you're saying that like if something looks like appetizing, you're saying you want to eat it. If you're saying something's cute, you're saying you want to touch it, or it's some kind of physical attraction that I think is pretty adjacent to sex.
Sure. And that would be your take. I do understand that. I think it's a little bit more complicated than that. Like when I was talking with Steven, I think the best way of putting it is aesthetics have an important role to play in these conversations. And I don't see many people, whether it's Vosh or Steven, those are the main two that I've seen you talk with, bring that up with you, is that to find something aesthetically pleasing is not always this clear one-to-one link with sexual attraction, right? And I think that cute for a lot of people is an aesthetic statement, like, oh, it's adorable because the kid, I don't know, has no blemishes or has big eyes or whatever. They're not picking features that they necessarily think is sexually attractive, and cuteness is not for a lot of people an extension of sexual attraction, especially when we're talking about kids.
I would, so
But
yeah
it's
so
rather like an aesthetic preference.
I would say it's definitely. I wouldn't say it's just aesthetic. So like if I look at a car, um, that I think looks
Which
really
could
well.
be cute.
I guess people say cars are sexy, so I'm trying to think of something that's like aesthetically pleasing. Um, like this Xbox controller. I think this is aesthetically pleasing,
Oh, that's hot.
but it doesn't make me want to smush my face into it.
Right.
You know, it's a different feeling when I see like my cat. When I see my cats, I want to smush my face into them. It's and then they purr and they curl around and like it's not like I get a boner when I'm cuddling my cat,
Right.
but the urge to caress and touch and feel like it's a sensual thing. And I think the same thing is true of a cute kid. Like when grandma calls you cute, she's going to come over, she's going to kiss you, she's going to drool on you, she's going to pinch your cheeks. She's if you're really young, she's going to pinch your legs, she's going to grab your legs, pinch your butt. Like it's a um it's a tactile sensual thing. So I agree that it's not consciously or directly sexual, but it's sexual enough that um, when
For some
Joe
people.
when Joe Biden does it to somebody who we don't want to see him doing it to, it's weird. Like so when you see two other people doing it, you see Joe Biden sniffing your kid. Uh, he probably feels the same way I feel about my cat, but from the outside, it's much more clearly sexual. It looks creepy,
Because of the behavior he's engaging in, for sure.
but it seems sexualized, even though it's the same thing I do to my cat. I sniff my cats; they smell good.
Yeah, but we would both agree that's like wrong-headed, right? To think that that's sexual. I don't think Joe Biden is like
No, I think he's a creep.
sexually.
No, I think he is a creepy sex weirdo.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that
um,
I think he is sniffing kids for sexual purposes, despite him without knowing it.
okay. Um, but to kind of go back a little bit, you do. I thought you did say kind of like you can see that it's not this one-to-one link between sexual that kind of is implied in your review that I think for a non-insignificant amount of people, if not the majority of people, it's more of an aesthetic statement than it is one that's like a couple of steps removed
Do
from a
we
sexual.
agree that there's a do we agree that a cute kid is likely, as they go through puberty, if they're still cute, to become hot? And that even people say, you know, when you're a cute little kid, they say, "Oh, you're gonna break hearts. Just wait till you get to college." Like,
It would depend on the
but you've heard people say that, right?
yes, like lady killer. I think is something that you've
Yeah,
mentioned in
yeah.
another
So
conversation.
when I was 11 or even 8, I remember my older brother's friends saying things like, "When Max gets to high school, when Max gets to high school, he is going to break hearts." And I'm like, not only are you picturing me fucking women your age, you're picturing me like not calling them back afterward. Like it's a whole scenario that you've constructed based on how I look now. You're talking about me having sex, girls begging me to have sex with them, and me being like, "No, you can't have my dick." And you're saying that to an 8-year-old, and it's perfectly sexually, socially acceptable thing to say. I just think that the way I'm kind of bluntly, more explicitly wording what is happening in that interaction, like you're telling an 8-year-old that you find them fuckable or pre-fuckable, and to me, I don't think there's a huge difference between fuckable and pre-fuckable.
Okay, that was going to be my follow-up. Like, I see a huge difference between those two, but as a separate note, I actually do think we should discourage that kind of thing. I do think that that's an uncomfortable thing that we should probably not do is like
Well,
this sexualization of these kids
okay,
or
but
to put them into that role.
morality aside, you see what I'm saying, that when you say cute and sexy as completely different concepts, I agree that my attraction to my cats is probably very much less tinged with sexuality, but not free of sexuality. And then someone like Shaylin, who I think is, I'm very passionately attracted to. That's a more sexual thing. And then there's times where I see a woman looking cute or in a childlike pose or childlike facial expression or lighting or something, and then all of a sudden you find them cute again. I don't think it's I don't think they're separate. I think they're attached to each other, overlapping.
Yeah, I think the only place we disagree is how much they overlap. Like, as a matter of fact, I think there's a lot of use cases of cute where it is almost directly related to sex. So, like,
Okay.
if there's a girl in the space and I want to flirt with her, and I'm like, "Oh, you're so fucking cute," and like whatever, like
It's a
that could
non
very well be.
it's a non-threatening way to say I want to fuck you.
Yeah, if we want to word it that way, I think
Right, but
wording it that way sounds
you're
extreme, but
saying
yeah,
you're saying I want to pinch your cheeks because you're so adorable.
different.
If a girl says you're adorable, she is also attracted to you.
Yeah, a lot of the time, yeah. It would
Yeah.
depend on the context, right? Like for something like that, like if it was like a family member or something like that, I'm not reading that into the situation all
Right.
the time. But yeah, like if a girl in the space came into my DMs and was like, "Hey, I just saw your stream. You're a really adorable guy."
Oh
Like, yeah,
yeah.
that's how I'm reading that.
Okay. Okay. So you view it as there's sexy, there's cute, there's sections where they overlap here, and then sexy ends, and there's still some more cute over here with that doesn't overlap at all. And my view is that it goes all the way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. And to go even further, but this is going to make it more difficult for us to agree. I would say that more often than not, the use of cute, especially with younger people, is outside of that range of the overlap with the sex thing. It could be sometimes like if I say this 8-year-old is a lady killer, like in your example, and then I say you're cute. That lady killer and cute is pushing it into that weirdo or that weird territory. But if I'm saying like your cat is cute, or if I'm saying like, oh my god, look at this baby, she's so cute, or like, oh my god, look at your dog or your cat or whatever, I think there are more uses of cute that are actually outside of that sexual area than are within it.
Yeah. I guess I just think the cute you're talking about is like an urge to protect, to feed, to take care of. You know,
In part, perhaps, yeah.
like the way babies are cute. Mostly, you feel like, oh, I want to just help you, and then there's the urge to fuck. And I think that we feel some of both for everyone to some extent, and the urge to kill, like just these primal urges that are all to varying degrees with varying people.
There is a
And
fuckability number above everybody's head, and we could all put
exactly,
a number on it. Yeah.
exactly. And I think Cuties tries to drop the fuckability number for the main characters all the way to the floor when they're chewing on gummy bears and they're falling out of their mouths and they look like developmentally disabled almost. And you're like, oh Jesus, like you're like a 2-year-old. And then it tries to drive the fuckability number up as high as it can go by dressing them like adults, putting makeup on them, having them, you know, twerk and behave as much like a teenage girl as possible. And I think that's the drastic, roller coaster I think that the movie's trying to take you
Sure.
on.
And the success of that though varies a lot, right? Like it was successful for you as described in your own review, but I actually think that throughout the movie, every indication we get from adults in the movie is that it's not working. So like when they're on the FaceTime call and the girl puts on the video, immediately changes the way the guy is interacting with her.
Mm-hmm.
Or even those two guys that worked at the laser tag, the one was being a little bit weird and like the other one like corrects him. Or when we get a view of the audience at the end with those sexy dances in those sexy clothes, a lot of the people in the audience were taken aback by that and felt more disgusted than they did liking it. There
That's
were a
true.
few people, but and in that way, I think that's mirroring actually how most people would feel about this, and that's why some people, even just seeing the preview or seeing the girls in those outfits on the poster, didn't want to see the movie because they felt that that was gross. They found it more disgusting than they did sexually attractive, I believe.
I agree that that is how most people would react.
Okay.
Um, I think in private, if you put a 12-year-old girl in booty shorts and knee pads twerks for 30 minutes on YouTube, I think you get 20 million views. I think in public, if you say, "Hey, do you want to watch this girl twerk in front of you on the street?" I think most people will say no, because it's not. It's that they're not hot to the exclusion of caring that they're children. I think that the discomfort is the people don't react like they're seeing a 3-year-old twerk. Like when you see a 3-year-old twerk, it's not uncomfortable because you're just like, oh look,
Oh, okay.
you're like, oh look, she's twerking, right? It doesn't really click or mean anything to you. I think to most people. Obviously,
Okay.
there are some people that it still does evoke arousal, but I think that's pretty unusual.
Abnormal, yeah.
Yes, I would say that is unusual to the point of being abnormal for sure. I don't know. Actually, I don't even know if
That
I don't know if I want to say that, but I'll say that it's not evocative to most people to the point where they're going to be like okay, if you and I are hanging out and we're in a place where there's like a barbecue or something, right? And a 12-year-old in a bathing suit like drops down to her knees and starts twerking, like shaking her ass all over the place. You and I would both become pretty uncomfortable. I think
um
in a thong,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
right? We'd be like, oh, hey, somebody should tell her that she shouldn't be doing that, right? We'd be like, the social norms are being broken. If a 2 or 3-year-old started twerking, it nobody. I don't think anybody would care. They'd be like, we'd probably laugh because it'd be like you're trying to look. Maybe you're copying a music video, or maybe you're just bouncing around and it happens to look like twerking. Either way, it would be funny because of how completely ineffective it is. Like
If
it's.
the 2 or 3-year was also wearing a thong and was doing it the exact same way, I think there would still be a level of discomfort as well.
I don't
Like
think a
I
two
don't
or
know if
three
that
year
was,
old can. A 2 or 3-year-old is not capable of moving the same way as a 12-year-old. So there's kind of like an uncanny valley thing that would happen where
okay. We could pick like 5 or 6.
I don't even think a 6-year-old is really coordinated enough to twerk. But there's some
I'd
6-year-old
argue the
dancers.
girls in the movies weren't right because there was a whole like training arc, and even after that,
They
they
were not
I don't,
totally. Yeah, they were not the best twerkers.
which
I hate
is
to.
actually
Is part of the
how
problem.
I
Yeah, yeah. It hurts me to say it, but they're not the best workers. I agree.
yeah. And
Um,
that's how I felt through the movie, though. Like what you're describing about the 3-year-old, I still feel about those 12-year-olds. Like there is a discomfort in knowing they're emulating the behavior of these people who are doing it to be sexual, and that makes me feel weird because they may not understand that that's what they're doing.
they understand. They know exactly what they're doing. Don't ever let anybody tell you the difference. Listen, my my point is that if you see a 3-year-old twerking at a barbecue, it might make you a little uncomfortable. Not nearly as uncomfortable as a 12-year-old or a 13-year-old, and
Sure.
or an 11.
Things like I feel like I have a mental model for you, and I understand for you, and I just think we're different people that have
Right. I don't.
different reasons for
My
feeling.
yeah. My whole point is that we're not that different.
You think that, but you don't know a ton about me or how I feel about these things, and
And you don't either. We already established that any mathematical or probability model we apply suits my view
yeah,
just as we both
we
agree that
we both have to work.
it is vanishingly rare that somebody would know that they can be turned on by an 11-year-old twerking and be willing to talk about it on Twitch. So
That they will
nothing.
have sorted through that internally, and then will be willing to
Yes.
talk about
So
it on
there's
Twitch.
nothing
Yeah,
you can say about your experience
to
that
convince
that
you,
yeah, that proves that I'm wrong, and there's nothing
to
I can say.
convince you,
No, to
not to
prove it.
prove.
Well, you're bringing up evidence as though it.
No, because it's subjective to the audience. So if the audience believes me and they're willing to take that leap of faith that I am being honest about my
Well, I'm not
internal
trying to.
experience,
I don't want to do the pedo fight, so I don't care who the audience believes. I don't want them to believe me over you either. All I'm doing is explaining to you my perspective and explaining why, when you say, "Well, but Mr. Girl, you're pretty different from other people," is my whole point is that I'm not different from other people. That's the whole point of the Cuties review, and a lot of my content in general is to say that we're all more similar to each other, and to these supposed freaky outliers than we'd like to think. And so your evidence being, but I'm saying to you, I'm not like that. Well, by your own admission, that of course that's what you and most of us are going to say. So I don't want to argue about whether I'm right or not. I don't want to debate you.
Sure.
You're debating me.
I think you're missing what my point there was, though. My point is, you are not going to trust what I say. I can understand why you're not going to trust what I say, but other people can make other determinations, right? We could fill in somebody else in your seat, like Steven or whatever, and they could very well trust what I'm saying. I understand why you don't trust what I'm saying, but we both have people that we're similar to. You could find tons of
I
people
think you
who
should.
actually.
I think you should acknowledge that. I think you should stop saying it. Basically, like there's no reason for you to say it. You already. You really would say that if we were at a barbecue and a 12-year-old started twerking, part of the reason it would make you uncomfortable is because you thought they were hot? Do you really think you would say that right now?
If you don't think that I would say that, then why are we asking the question? Because even if I tell you the opposite, you're not going to believe me.
Because we're explaining our different worldviews.
You're
And
asking, but you'll only accept one answer.
no, there's two different things going on. One is, what is your conscious, thought through answer? And I am interested in that, and that's what you're giving me. But in addition to that, you're saying, and I'm right, and you're weird. And that's what I'm pushing
No.
back against. When you, if
Uh,
you keep, I didn't start pushing back against you till you told me, but I think you would be surprised to know that actually you're pretty unusual in this aspect. And you've said that
okay,
you've
if
said
I
that if
said that, I'll adjust that. My
okay.
intention is to say that like there are people who think differently than you. That there are people who will feel uncomfortable for a variety of reasons there that I could imagine,
What is the
and
point
not
of
all of them are sexual in nature.
I just don't. I guess I don't see a point in saying that. I don't see a point
Because
in chat.
you
I
don't
don't.
believe me when I say that. That's why I'm saying like there are other people that exist that are like me, same as there are other people that exist
Yeah,
that are
but
like you.
I don't need you to believe me, I don't think you should need me to believe you. We don't need to agree on this. We have different. That's why we're talking. We have different worldviews. We can compare them without arguing.
Yeah, but I don't feel like you respect my worldview as much as I respect yours because I'm taking what you're saying at face value and believing you, but you're not believing what I'm saying, which makes it difficult to communicate with you
I
because you
do.
think that I'm lying about my position.
I think you are wrong, and you could be lying about your position, and you have already done a couple things and that make me think that if you had the same position as me, you would take a safer, more defensible stance. I think that in this discussion, um, I think because some of my beliefs I'm willing to say are because of my own experiences with myself, with others, talking to other people. Like I've never met someone in my personal life who was unwilling to tell me which of the cuties they thought were the hottest and why. That's
Okay.
in my experience of the real world, people don't talk the way you're talking. No,
Well,
none of
to
my
be
friends
fair,
would be like,
I didn't reject answering that question, right? I don't think I was
and
asked
I
that.
don't think any of them would say that the apparatus by which I've arrived at the determination of which of the cuties is the hottest is this hyper intellectual thought experiment. They would just say, "Well, I fucking know because I just consulted my gut, and my
Could
gut
you
tell my."
repeat that a little bit? You cut out. I'm so sorry.
Oh, I don't think that they would say that the reason they know which cutie is the hottest is that this hyper intellectual thought experiment. They would say, "I just know because I'm human and I can feel when someone's hot." So it ain't
Well,
that
we also
complicated.
agreed that people don't think it through, right? I think if they thought it through a little bit more and sat with it, maybe they could trace back the why that immediate answer came into their head and
Uh,
give that to us as well, right?
Maybe. I feel like we're getting derailed from the meta conversation
Okay.
about the conversation. So
Okay.
my point is that it feels like you have a vested interest in arguing with my worldview. Your view in this situation is the one you're espousing is much more common than mine. And I think that you're doing me a bit of a disservice by assuming that yours is the default and that I have to defend mine because it is not the default on Twitch. My view is the default among like psychologists in my
Okay.
experience. And sexologists and people who study pedophilia and these
I'm not
things.
arguing defaults, to be clear. I don't.
But I
I'm
believe
not.
that it feels like you're um it feels like you're not willing to just say, okay, so you believe that the reason I would be uncomfortable at seeing a 12-year-old twerk at a barbecue more so than a 3-year-old is because I have some innate attraction to the 12-year-old that would clash with my sense that I'm not supposed to be, and that it's awkward and they're not mature and they're a child, and so that's what would make me uncomfortable. I don't think you're really willing to just let that stand, that that's just what I think. And then when you
No, I
say,
do.
and that,
I accept it.
allow me to finish. Allow me to
Sure.
finish. And then when I say that, and you push back against it, you'll go a little further to hint that, well, maybe you just think that because you think 12-year-olds are hotter than most people. And essentially,
I didn't
you're
say that at
essentially
all.
well, you said don't you think that maybe your experience about this is a little different from most people? Is that
No, no,
possible?
not from most people, from other people. That there are other people who have a different experience. Because I told you a different
Well, wait, okay,
experience.
yes,
You
one of
said
the
you don't
people,
believe it.
one of the people being you.
Yeah, well,
Okay, okay, so yeah,
okay. Well,
I
we can
don't
just
care.
talk about mine
The
experience if
semantic,
that
no, I
makes you more
don't. That's
comfortable.
not my point. My point is that you are within the community of two. Fine, just you and me. You have a vested interest, it seems, in pointing out anytime I say, this is what I think. You say, just so everybody knows, I don't agree with that because I think that your innate experience of 12-year-olds is different from mine. And so
Sure.
I know that you're not coming out and saying it, but it feels like um, you're deconstructing, or it feels like we're debating because you want to say that.
Okay. Can we
Wait a
take?
second.
Can you have 2 seconds to
Wait a second.
respond?
Wait a second.
Okay.
I've just gotten some information from my chat that
Oh,
you just typed in your chat. Booksmarts. This is getting a
this
bit
is getting
weird.
weird. Yeah,
Right. So this is another problem.
because I didn't say some of the things that you're saying
That's
that I said.
that's fine. This is another problem I have with a lot of these debates and conversations is that most of the time the streamer is talking to the chat. They're not actually talking to me.
Talking to both.
Well, I'm not the one paying you. So
What do you mean?
I mean, you've got another vested interest in, as all streamers do, in communicating more directly with the chat than to that.
Okay.
Like what I'm doing could be seen as just a performance, and maybe we're not having a conversation at all. Maybe I'm just talking to my chat, and nothing I say to you is maybe I don't care what you say in response to what I say. Maybe I just want to impress my chat. I mean, I started reading the chats too because I mean now they're giving me fucking opposition research, so I have to read it.
Yeah, I haven't had it open until just now. I was like, I feel like I haven't said this stuff, but if they were like, Booksmarts is backpedaling or something, then I would be like, okay, well, I'll ask him, like, when did I say this thing? So, yeah, I just barely opened it and typed that. I haven't been looking at it this entire time. You've had my
But
full
if I say
attention.
you're backpedaling, you wouldn't care.
No, I would. Like if you point like every time so far that you've said like, well, you're saying this, and I'm like, well, did I say that? You're like, well, no, I feel like that's what you're trying to say, or that's what you're trying to get at. And I try to handle each of those when you tell me them. So I do feel like I'm listening really hard. I'm taking notes this entire time.
All
I'm
right.
trying really hard to engage with you.
I think that we're at a crossroads. Do you want me to
Okay.
make a joke about 11-year-old android's panties so you can boot me? Or do you want to have a real conversation?
No,
With
I'm not gonna boot you, dude.
well, then
I'm not looking.
why are you telling them it's getting weird? Why are you whispering to the audience secrets about me?
So the reason why I said it's getting weird is because
Why'd you
I
say
went
it?
to have like a vibe check from my chat. Like, am I
Why'd you
off
say it to
here?
them
Is
and not to
the girl
me?
off here? I already said it to you. I said I don't feel like you believe what I'm saying. I don't feel like
That's
you
different from
trust what I'm
Booksmarts.
saying.
This is getting weird. Don't try to tell me they're the
It
same
is because
thing.
I'm talking to two different people or two different sets of people. I'm talking to my chat,
Yeah, I'm
and then
asking
I'm
you why
talking
you're talking to your chat and not me.
I'm talking to both at the same time because I'm
You're
streaming
saying,
right now.
well, you're saying different things to the chat than you're saying to me.
Yes, I am because they're a different group of people than
Well, you're
you.
talking smack. That's known on the street as talking smack.
I'll bite that bullet. It is a bit smack talky because I
Okay,
don't feel
so
like you're engaged with what
I,
I'm telling you.
I'm not
I
trying
don't
to
feel like you
I'm
believe
not
what I'm
it's
saying
obviously talking smack. I want to know why you're doing it. That's all.
because I don't feel like you're engaging with what I'm saying in the conversation. You're putting words and ideas
Well, then why don't
into
you
the
just say
things that I'm
that?
telling you.
You can
Because
say
I
that.
already did. I did. I said that to you already. I said that to you before I typed that in my chat.
Okay. So what do you think I'm not engaging with?
So, like I said already, I don't think that you believe what I'm saying is correct or is true or is representative of reality about that 12-year-old situation, or about the cuteness and attraction thing, or about the gauging the hotness, right? You said that you're intellectualizing all that, but I don't think that's how people are working. And even if that is the case, I think because of this percentage scenario that we discussed before, it's difficult to trust you, because I think even if
Okay.
you believed what I believed, you wouldn't tell me that. You wouldn't
Okay.
be
Okay.
honest about
Uh,
that.
okay. So I don't believe you. We
Hmm.
established that. I don't think what you're
Yes.
saying is true, either because you're in denial or because you're lying. We've logicked that out, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So how can I do you are you religious?
A little bit like spiritual.
Okay, and I'm an atheist.
Okay.
So if you're talking to like a fundamentalist Christian, how do you handle um I think your book is wrong and I don't think there's a devil and I don't think anything you're saying is true, but I still want to talk to you about it. So, how do I respect your beliefs here, or how do you respect mine while with you feeling like I'm engaging with you?
Can I have 2 seconds to think about this?
Yeah, I don't like the fast back and forth. I am fine with a long
Okay.
pause.
So
Talk
how would
sh-
you
talk
engage
shit in my
if
chat. What do you think?
if we have like very fundamental disagreements? You don't believe in the thing that I'm saying is true. Because generally I work around it. Like generally it's not super necessary for the conversation, and even when it is, like I suppose, and this may be another fundamental disagreement. Like I can't know if there's a God, and I can't know if there's an afterlife. I can't know if there's really heaven and hell. Like I would feel
Right,
pretty dumb if I die and I'm like, oh fuck, the Christians were right. God damn it.
right.
Like
So
I
so if I'm Christian, I either you're a sinner who's going to hell, or I'm deluded and wasting my life praying to something that doesn't exist. And so
a mean
how
way
do,
of putting it,
but
for
like
sure.
right, but the thing with the pedophilia shit is that it gets pushed to that because neither I sense that you're, and I appreciate this about this conversation, that you're not really willing to just let the logical chain go. But if we keep following it, this is why I said let's get off of the are the cuties hot, but we got right back into it because the thing is that if you follow the chain, eventually either I'm a kind of sexual weirdo who is convincing myself that everybody else is more like me than they actually are, and I'm going around spouting this publicly, and then getting like irritated and defensive and with this air of superiority and smugness when other people are saying, "Bro, we're not like that. You're just a fucking weirdo." Or um, you're in denial to some degree, or you're being dishonest to some degree, and
um
you don't want to be seen as dishonest or in denial, and I don't want to be seen as the only guy looking at the blonde one. So it's turning into this wrestling match where
um,
we're trying to, and then you're checking with your chat like, hey guys, like is there and I'm not like I don't like that you did that, but I understand why you did it. Like you're
okay.
checking in to be like, um, is he winning this fight? Where like, do you now think that I'm lying? And because if I win, then you're both a weird sexual weirdo now, just like me, and you tried to hide it and failed, which is bad. But and then if you win, it's like, well, like Mr. Girl, you're not honest. You're not being more blunt than other people. You're just a weirdo. So, um, how do we get out of this?
Can I respond to that?
Yo, yeah,
Like bit by bit. Okay.
yeah,
So, firstly, with the winning thing, I all I want to do is like be an advocate for my perspective. And if you say that it's lying or you say that it's not truthful, I have to swing back harder than I would if you were to just take it for granted and accept that we have different perspectives. So that may be part of why it feels like we're battling. I actually don't really care too much to like convince the audience that they believe one thing about themselves or another thing about themselves, because I
well,
think that there are people that believe or feel the way that the both of us feel. There are going to be people that feel the way that you're feeling and feel the way I'm feeling. Then
can,
part two.
wait, can I ask you something about part one?
Sure.
Why do you need to swing back? Because I think I may also be swinging back, but I don't think we need to.
Okay.
If the Christian wants to have the last word on their side and say like, well, I just know I'm part of God's plan, would you feel the need to say like, if there were a God to have a plan, you might be right, but okay, yeah, go on. Like, you probably wouldn't feel the need to say that. So why do we need to? Why can't we leave it that we don't know and we can't know? I think with the hypothetical of the statistics thing, I was pushing for kind of like agnosticism.
That
We can't know who's right.
Sure. And I agree with this.
Okay.
I agree with the agnostic thing is where we're going to land. We can't know for everybody. We cannot read their minds. It would be impossible. Neither of us should argue that like we understand how everybody else works because that's not possible for us to do. The same way it's not possible for the
yes.
atheist or for the Christian to know about God. The reason why I'm pushing back so hard, and this may answer why you're pushing back so hard, is because I actually think a better parallel with the religion thing is you're telling the Christian, I don't actually think you believe in a God. I think that that's ridiculous, and I don't really think you believe in a God. Whereas I'm like, well, no, I do believe in a God. You could not believe in the God, but that's my experience. Is I do believe in the God,
Okay.
and I'm going to fight to defend my faith. Like I do have faith, right? And that's what's inspiring that kind of pushback.
Okay. Let me ask you this then. Do you think it's possible to have sexual feelings you're not aware of?
Like subconscious things, kind of like Oedipus complexes and Freudian stuff and all that, definitely.
Okay. So it is your your
Possible,
experience.
you're right.
Well,
Possible.
I guess what I'm
Possible.
saying, I'm saying
I
that
don't know.
your experiential arguments against that don't matter. And so I don't mean to be dismissive, but if I say you unknowingly feel XYZ, I think your only two places you can go there are, or I guess three, is I don't think I have feelings I don't know about, or there's no way I can argue with that. It could be true, or I feel like where you are going is I don't want people to think that's true, or I don't want to have feelings like that. And
Yeah,
I know
I think both,
nobody
both,
wants. I
both.
don't want. Nobody wants to be sexually attracted to like minors.
Yeah,
Well, I don't want to be sexually
probably
attracted
not.
to 18-year-olds. It's not because like I don't want to date 18-year-olds. It's not convenient.
Right.
Um, so I feel like you have to pick one of like, do you
I'll be
do,
agnostic. The door is open. It is quite possible that there is some subconscious thing I can never touch that actually has me attracted to kids in some way that I actually have no ability to reach with my conscious brain. That is possible. But like the God example, like the faith example, it's something neither of us can prove because I can't dig through my subconscious to find that thing that by definition is impossible to find. You can't because you don't live in my
but
body. So
in your daily experience, do you feel like you see or sense repressed emotions in other people? That they believe things or feel things that they don't know that they're feeling? Okay, so in that sense, I don't feel like it's that much of a break about what we both know we both repress a lot of things. The question is what things, and there's no way to know, at least in this conversation. There's no way for us to guess in the kinds of questions we would need to ask each other to try to get a more educated guess. We don't want to ask. We don't like you don't we don't want to start detailing our sexual fantasies to each other. Like we're not going to go there. So I feel like the
good if you want.
I don't. So I feel like the more and I don't believe that you do either. I think that that was a joke.
I think it's funny, but yeah,
I know
I would enjoy it.
it's funny, but I don't think that you want to discuss your sexual fantasies with me.
I actually would be okay with that. I don't know. I don't get to talk about it on stream much, and if I was forced to in this conversation, ooh, I actually wouldn't mind.
Okay. Uh, I I think we would run into the same problem immediately, where I would say I don't think these are your real sexual fantasies.
Do you ever find that that's less helpful since you can't like it makes like people's testimony about their personal experiences not helpful for you at all, like even asking these questions because you can't trust any of the answers?
I think since we're talking about something that everyone wants to not be true about themselves, your answers are interesting, but they're not that meaningful to me. No,
Okay.
because we're talking about things that we don't want to believe and things we don't want to think about and things we don't want to feel.
Sure.
So, and I think that's part of what I think that's what I was trying to say in the Cuties review, that why I think I'm uniquely able. I think what is unique about me is that I'm, or maybe just among social media people, that I'm okay with it. I'm more comfortable with disgusting aspects of my sexuality than I think your average person, at least your
Uh,
average content creator.
of your internal thought processes too. Like one recurring theme we saw with your conversations on the stream, because again, I'm like the rhetoric and theme guy, and I look at like how are people communicating, how are they perceiving things, what's their perspective. You often give voice to, I think, these back of the head thoughts that people have, these call of the void thoughts. They're really uncomfortable bringing to the surface and being real about, like your school shooter discussion that you had with Stephen, or that story. Like
Yeah,
yeah, I think most people have thought about like doing harm onto other people, even if they like them. Like it could be in a dream, it could be just like a passing thought. And I think
sure.
to deny that is off. And I like that you do that,
Well,
and you're like honest about that stuff.
I appreciate that. Okay, so I think to move forward here, I want some kind of a ceasefire where I won't like it's just a fact that I think you're in denial or that you're lying. But I'm not trying to judge you, and if you keep pushing me into saying that, I'll keep saying it, but I'm only saying it to just be like blunt and as a disclosure. I don't think you're particularly more in denial than any of us are in general. I think we're all in denial about all kinds of things, including me, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It's just a necessary conclusion of the way my view clashes with yours. And I think we can both agree that you think that it's not that I'm more aware of bizarre sexual feelings or predilections I have, it's that I have more of them. And I think that if we just agree that you think that follows from your beliefs and my thing follows from my beliefs, um, and I think we both also agree you might rather be seen as a little more careful and cautious on stream than be seen as a pedophile, and I'd rather be seen as a pedophile than be seen as more careful and cautious on stream. Then I don't think we have to keep hammering at each other there.
Fair enough. I can agree to all that. The only little asterisk I'll give, and I'm so sorry for having an asterisk,
No, it's
because
fine.
I actually don't think you have more of these thoughts than anybody else. And if I've communicated that, like, I don't really want to. Like,
Well, what do
I don't
you?
think you have more bad thoughts or more of these feelings about whatever. I think there are plenty of people that are just like, I wouldn't describe it as like more.
Well, then what do you think the difference is between you and me that makes me say in my review the cuties was good at making me attracted to 12-year-olds? Why did I say that? How do you explain the difference between us?
We felt differently about the actors and their portrayals in the movies. You were able to feel that way about those
But
kids.
what?
I can
Why?
understand
You're saying with a
why.
more you're saying with a better movie you would have felt attracted to the 12-year-olds if they had done a better job.
Better movie, would I have been attracted to the 12-year-olds if they had done a better job? Um, they definitely could have done a better job. Do I think at some point they could have convert? Hold on. I see you like face flop or whatever. Do I think there's a point? I think what you're asking is, do I think there's a point at which they could do such a good job of sexualizing them that even I would feel something? Yes. I think there is some point where they sexualize them so much where even I felt
Your
sexually
your use of
attracted.
your use of the word even there implies that it's easier to make me attracted to a 12-year-old than you.
Well, based on the objective, like that you saw that movie, you felt that way. I saw it, I didn't, but I could see some point in the future. Then that would be
Okay,
the
so
even.
I
Yes.
don't need the whole loop around. You can just say I'm more of a pedophile than you are. It's faster.
Sure, if we're on that histogram thing that you talked about in your conversation with Steven, yeah, I think you're probably further along than me, but I don't
Okay,
think that's
so
a
that's
value thing.
whether you're okay with it or not. I don't think you need that asterisk. You think I'm more of a pedophile, and I think you're more of a liar. And that's I don't want to. I would rather be seen as a pedophile than a liar.
Okay.
You'd rather be seen caught in a lie. Like when I said that my chat told me that you told your chat that it's getting weird, right? You were caught in somewhat of a lie there. You were sort of being sneaky. You got called out.
I didn't lie to you.
You didn't. Okay, I think it's sneaky. It's
Sneaky.
it's more dishonest than pedophilic. We can agree with that, right?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I think that if my chat suddenly outed you as being some kind of pedophile, your reaction would not be like, "Yeah, you're right." You would be like, "Oh fuck, this is a big fucking problem." So I I don't think we need the asterisk. I think you think I'm more pedophilic than you, and I think that you're more denial or repressed. And we don't need to.
And we can agree on that and move forward. That I can agree on.
All right, cool. All right, what's next? What's the next step here?
Oh, you cut out there. What was that?
Oh, I said, what's the next step here?
All right. I have a bunch of stuff. So, if you want to get back into aesthetic, that discussion about aesthetics versus sexual stuff, I feel like we're making progress at like finding a place where we agreed. But at the same time, I feel like I kind of know where we would land. If you want to go back to that, we could. Like how
Cute versus sexy versus cute.
yeah, and like how much it's tied to sexual attraction versus like, oh, I want to cuddle this thing.
Yeah. So if you accept Destiny's wall of like, if you're attracted to people below this wall, you're a very unique outlier, and it's probably not going to just happen once. It doesn't taper off. Then your definition of cute versus sexy makes more sense. And if you think that you have some innate attraction to all humans, then it has to be like a spectrum of sorts with all different shapes and dots all over it.
I'm more of spectrum belief. One thing that we haven't gotten into from the Destiny conversation is I think that his firewall of binary, where like a spectrum doesn't, for pedophilia, doesn't start until after we've had at least one, and then you're automatically a pedophile, and it's just a question of how much of a pedophile you are. I don't personally ascribe to that.
Okay.
I'm more of your opinion that like everybody probably has like a pedophile number, whatever, above their head,
Okay.
and they fall on a spectrum of that.
So are you just saying that then, if you're saying to some degree we're all attracted to 11-year-olds, but that
We could be, yeah.
we are or we could be?
I think that's the same thing, right? Depending on the scenario that we present you, we could make you attracted to an 11-year-old, or
Okay.
depending on the 11-year-old, that you could be particularly attracted.
Well, obviously depending on the 11-year-old. Okay, so you're saying that we all have some non-zero attraction to 11-year-olds that can be manipulated through different situations. But you're saying it's there, it just could be vanishingly small.
Sure, yeah.
Okay. And
I
then,
doubt it's vanishingly small for most people, to give like a point to your side, but yeah.
Okay. And then you're saying that cuteness, you're saying that's not part of cuteness. That is a separate thing.
I actually think what you said, that there is some overlap there between that cuteness and the sexy, but I also think that cuteness in its usage extends beyond that into territory that has absolutely nothing to do with sexuality as well.
Okay. So I think what I believe is that when you want to protect a child, you want to protect it to continue your bloodline. We protect babies and children and things that look like babies and children, like cats, because of an innate desire to spread our DNA. I think that's that's the pull of cuteness. And I think that's the same reason that we fuck things. And the fact that they're used interchangeably after a certain age, like people of all ages can be cute, but if they, as it's more socially appropriate to want to fuck them, or actually desirable, then cute takes on a sexual connotation, and then when you get into your late 60s or 70s, Clint Eastwood stops being hot and he becomes cute again, a non-threatening cute old man.
Sure.
I still find him handsome, but
Yeah.
just as an example, the fuckability drops and cuteness remains. So I guess just for me, because they're intermingled in language and in thought, and I've had the experience of thinking I just wanted to protect someone and then realizing I actually wanted to fuck them also, or had the
Hmm.
experience of one turning to the other rapidly and it being really confusing. I think, um, yeah, I think that there's always some element of fuckiness in cuteness, a sexual attraction in adoration.
Okay. I'm actually liking that we had our big like spat because it's actually given me more insight into how like repressed feelings kind of fit into your worldview and interpretation of stuff. Like oh go ahead.
Right. Yeah, yeah, because you're saying that when people call something cute, they're not consciously thinking, they don't mean or they're not experiencing a sexual attraction.
In
And
some cases, yeah. It
right,
goes
and
both ways.
yeah, and I'm just saying that that part of what they're experiencing is just in below the water.
Okay,
So
okay.
they
And 100% of the time, you think it's
I think there is something below the water 100% of the time.
dang.
I don't think
How
that
can
when
you know?
you can't know what it is. You can never know what it is. So
Then how do
it's
you
just
know it's 100%?
I don't know that either. That's just my um like kind of spectrumy worldview of like you
But
can
it's
never
not a spectrum.
you can never know everything you're feeling.
Sure, but
So
that not knowing means that there's some probability that's unknown to you, but a probability nonetheless. But you're assuming, well, it's always got to be that it's the sexual thing, even though we don't know, right? That's where I'm confused there.
uh yeah, I guess what I'm saying is that there's always some sexual component to finding something or like at least finding a person cute and you don't know what it is. Sometimes you feel it and are aware of it and mean it. And sometimes you intentionally are trying to convey it when you say cute. And then yeah, I think when grandma's pinching your cheek when you're 5, I don't think she means to be sexual toward you, and I don't think Joe Biden means to be sexual towards kids when he's sniffing them. But I think
But
it's
it's under
there.
the surface.
I think it's there. I'm not. That's not a. I'm not saying it's a bad lurking, evil, horrible thing, and that it should never happen. But I
Sure.
think with Joe Biden, it becomes uncomfortable when other people can see it and he can't, or
Yeah,
some of us see it and some of us don't, and it becomes
the
like a weird
optics of it's not good.
right because it's like you're that's supposed to be under the surface, but it's like poking out.
Well, because the optics of the things that he's doing, they're like strange. Like if he just said, "Oh, you're such a cute little girl," and just left it at that, that would be fine. It's the sniffing and stuff that's weird
Hmm.
for the behavior. But I don't think like if he went to a bunch of like a girls' school and he's like, "I've seen so many of you cute." Young, bright individuals who I think are gonna like, I don't think that would be weird. But the sniffing, yeah, the sniffing is strange. Um,
It's strangely uninhibited. I don't think it's that strange that he wants to do it. I feel like
no,
we want to rub our faces on things that we think are cute. I think it's strange that he doesn't know that he shouldn't be doing that.
yeah, he should have more social awareness for sure.
Yeah.
To respond to this though, now this kind of there's always something lurking beneath the surface. There's the possibility that you don't know it, but the sexual thing is what's pushing you to say something like, "I think that you're cute." You think that despite not knowing what the probability is there, that you're going to assume that every time you use that cute thing with another human being, there is a sexual component that you either are or aren't aware of, but it's always there. Am
Yeah,
I understanding that?
I think that's how almost it's almost semantic, but I think that's how I define cuteness. Yeah.
Okay, okay. Because I think, and how many other folks have you? No, I won't bring other people into this because that's gonna derail us again. Um, do you think that this cute thing also applies to like inanimate objects or animals and stuff too? That there's like a low key sexual component to it when people are using it?
With animals a little bit, but I think we like animals that look like babies, so I think it's very muted and minimal. I will say, if bringing other people into it, that when I talk about this stuff in the real world in my personal life, everybody's like, well, yeah, of course. Like it's not. it's not seen as strange or controversial in the circles in which I travel. Or some of it people might be like, okay, that's an interesting way of thinking of it, but like they're not. There's not a lot of pushback. And then in online world, it's obviously. I mean, you know the reaction. Well,
Well, you're also on like debate Twitch things as well. Like
mhm.
you're talking to people that they're looking for anything they disagree with you on to argue with you, and that's like their whole shtick.
True, but like the reaction to the cuties review, like I guess lately I've gotten more feedback of people being like, yeah, I actually agree with your review. I think it was a really good video. I don't know what people's problem was. And I yeah, so I don't know.
It was a good video. Like, and you don't have to agree with everything in that video to think it's good either. Like, I can disagree about the kid and the hotness thing, but
Yeah.
you had good commentary on the themes, and you even caught things that we missed when we watched it. And we went back in the Netflix show, and we like went back and we are like, oh, that is like when she climbed under the bed. I didn't catch that was because she couldn't finish tying her shirt, or like there were other
Oh,
things you
yeah,
picked
yeah,
up.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank
So
you.
it was a good video.
I appreciate that.
And to get back to the cute thing, if there are scenarios with animals where you'll accept that the sexual thing isn't coming in, or with inanimate objects where that sexual thing isn't lurking under the surface and coming in, I don't think it's too much of a stretch to then also concede at least a little bit that there are some uses of cute person on person that have nothing to do with a sexual component. That we can't know for sure whether or not that's the case, but if we were God and we lifted the veil and looked at those subconscious things, there's plenty of uses of cute
I don't
people
know.
to people where that's not at all influencing it.
I don't think I will concede that. Yeah. Uh,
Really?
yeah. Like if you buy a girl a cute purse, she'll be excited, but not really horny. And this is what I picture in my imagination. But when if you're going to a park, actually, uh, a friend of mine has a dog that sits in his living room, and I started calling him the panty dropper because his job is that when his roommate, who's also my friend, brings a girl over, the dog charms her out of her underwear and gets her into bed. And I feel like if you go to a park and if you've got a dog with you, you can women get horny when they see a cute dog. And you can say they get horny because of your relationship with the dog, but I feel like
Yeah.
uh yeah, I guess that's true. But it feels like puppies make women horny.
They
And
make
and
men more attractive for sure.
if it's an old dog, they don't get as horny. If it's a yippy little puppy,
I think that gets closer to cute than it does horny. Like to
but
get
they're
back
more
to that
likely to
color
have sex with you right after.
with a younger dog than an older dog, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, yeah, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but it does bring out a more fatherly side of you. So
Yeah, it's like, oh, look, he takes care of like old rescues or something. Like that's
yeah,
so
that's true.
cute.
That's true. So if a woman sees a dog by itself, is that sexual? I don't know. Thinking about cute little babies, I feel like it's not the babies themselves that are sexy, but it's the idea of having a baby and then you want to have sex to have a baby. I guess I just still think it's all intertwined. Whereas I think a cute purse, I think the meaning of cute then is a little different. I think it's a different emotion.
Different people probably use it differently too. Like for you, this
True.
may be true all the time. For me, this may be true all the time. Yeah, because like it's such a varied word. It's such a common word, and it's used in so many different scenarios. Some which are sexual, some which I will admit there is a possibility that there's sexualness, right? Like
Yeah.
with a close friend, like if I'm like, oh, you look cute today, whatever. Like, could that be pushed to the point where I go from thinking it's cute in an innocent sense and like a protecting sense to like cute as in like I find you attractive? Like, yeah, maybe there is something being repressed there, and I think the probability is higher without even knowing. But if it's like a random like little kid on the street and they do something cute, I don't think that there's some like repressed sexual thing there. Or I think that's much less likely given my other engagements with children or with animals. Like, given my other engagements with animals, I'm not sure if there's a repressed thing there. Um,
Uh, yeah. I guess I probably think all interactions are sexually tinged to some
Oh,
degree,
okay.
including this one. And I think that when you if you believe that, then I think it's sort of meaningless for me to say that cute is always sexual. So I'll concede that um, if you see a kid like do something cute on a street with like a basketball or something, that the amount of sexuality and whatever you say about it is so small that I'll agree with you that it basically is meaningless. But I think because I also believe we don't know, I think I have a more kind of protective and cautious stance about it, where I don't. I would never tell a child that they're cute because I think it's weird to objectify
Okay.
them. Because if my worldview is I don't know if I'm saying something sexual, then I am very careful to not.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's smart. That's a smart way to do it. Like given your other belief. Um, and it actually gets me more thinking about my use of cute because like I already said before, and I hate to bring the audience thing into it, I think there's a non-insignificant number of people that think the same way that you do, that may view my usage of cute to a kid or something as like weird because there could be a sexual angle to that, especially not knowing who I am if I'm like a stranger or something. So you talking about this and sharing your perspective, that's why I think it's valuable, because I think other people believe this and it's going to help me like, I don't know, expand the way that I see the world and how people interpret like my own behaviors.
Oh, cool. Thank you. I I appreciate that.
Mm. And and I think you make people feel more comfortable with admitting things that are in the back of their head that I think we need to be more okay with admitting, like the school shooting thing, or even like this cuties thing. Like I told people while we were watching it, if you felt sexually attracted, particularly at the beginning with the girl in like the tight leather pants doing her like dance, you don't know who this character is. She hasn't turned
Yeah,
around.
that's on purpose for
Indication.
sure. They're trying to
Yeah.
make you. They're trying to trick you. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And does that mean that the whole purpose of the movie is kind of built around that? No, it's probably more incidental, and I'm sure both you and I believe that. Maybe it wasn't the director's intent or the creator's intent, but it's certainly something that's happening for like people enough to where it was a problem,
It's supposed to,
reception
yeah.
wise.
I think the movie's supposed to be confusing.
Okay,
Yeah. And that shot is like the best example of that for sure.
sure.
It's the only explicit moment that is obviously supposed to be confusing.
Yeah. And I think any other time we get close to like being overtly sexual or whatever, it seems to be very intentionally undercut by whether that's the director or the screenwriter. So like for instance, when she's like unbuttoning her pants to give herself to the uncle to try and get the phone back, like he
Yeah.
immediately rejects it, pushes her, and we don't really go further with that. Or the Omegle talk, like we discussed before, or when they talk to the teenage boys at the park, we undercut all of those. And so she seems to want to communicate that.
Wait, what are you saying that is trying to communicate?
That oftentimes when we do get in these sexual scenarios outside of that very first one, where they're
Yeah.
meant to be sexually appealing or doing something sexual, it always seems to be undercut by the adults and older people around them to tell them, I actually don't feel that way despite you doing this.
Right. Yeah, I feel like in real life it is much more likely that these girls would be abused somehow by one of these people that they
Unfortunately.
right. Like I feel like it's a bit rainbows and sunshine to show every single adult that they make some like advance to do the responsible thing immediately and push them away.
And yeah, and to be fair, some of the adults did respond to it, right? But they're often contrasted by other adults on the screen. So like the other employee at the laser tag was like they
Yeah,
were
yeah,
doing
yeah.
twerking, or
Right.
that guy that looked like Mr. Mooten in the crowd who's like, yeah, with the headphones, and but you have the other like the mom and her kid who's like, what the fuck are we watching, right?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. There are a couple.
Hmm.
But not to the extent that they think you'd think they're predators. It just seems like they're kind of like creepy.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Do you think we're doing better at understanding each other and communicating more fairly now versus earlier? I feel like we started out rough.
Yeah, kind of. I also think we just agree on most of the stuff you're saying now.
Okay, okay, that does make it easier.
Yeah.
Although we agree to different extents, right? Like I'm willing to admit the parts of what you're saying that I agree with. You're willing to admit the parts that I agree with, or give me more context. Like thinking every situation is to some extent influenced by sex means that to push on that point on any one of them when it could be like infinitesimally small or something
Hmm.
makes it maybe not worth like arguing about. And
Right.
I
Yeah.
like that about you. I think that's part of what makes you a good communicator is that balance that I see when you're talking with people.
Yeah. I think that you convinced me that the utility of calling it sexual drops off at a point where it's probably not meaningless, but because of the unknown factor, I think that interactions with kids where you're talking about how they look and how you like how they look, you should probably be careful. And I think part of being careful is assuming that you are capable of sexualizing the interaction, and certainly capable of making them feel like you did, and should
Yeah,
should just keep an eye on it.
yeah. I actually think that happens in movies and stuff too, right? Like little girls kind of misunderstand when like an adult in their life that they find attractive or that they're attracted to is like, oh, you're so cute or you're adorable or you've got a good head on your shoulders or any of these remarks they're interpreting in a sexual way. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, from the child's perspective, that's something to keep in mind as well, that they could interpret it that way pretty easily.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so let's see here. I want to talk a little bit about like rhetoric and optics, since that's like a big focus on my channel.
Okay.
And this is gonna be a fun one. Um, you know that throughout your life, when you say certain things or your delivery of particular ideas can lead people to feel uncomfortable or like lead to like adverse reactions to things that you're saying, even though you think that these people would agree with me, like the school shooter thoughts. I
I would
think a lot of
I'd say the
okay.
adverse reaction is often because they agree with me. I would even go further than that. Yeah.
Mm, okay. Um, I actually think that may be true. They may agree with you, but they may
Yeah.
be repressing it. And I
Yeah.
think what may be triggering the repression is seeing how you deliver that belief. Seeing you communicate the belief makes them want to other themselves from it because it's associated with the way that
Uh,
you said it.
I don't agree with that. I think it certainly
Okay.
doesn't help. But if you were like, if you're like, man, I want a cheeseburger, and I was like, I want a fucking cheeseburger too, man. Like, no matter how I deliver it, it's not going to make you be like, actually, I don't like cheeseburgers. I think that I don't think I can cause someone to repress a belief or feeling like in the moment like that. But I do think if you have some propensity already for wanting to distance yourself from something, and then I will agree that I'm not making it safe for you to come out on the limb.
Yeah. Like I think more people would be afraid to, for instance, say that they enjoyed the Cuties movie because you and other people, frankly, like mentioned how it could be used for like sexualizing children, or how it could be fat material for pedophiles, or having that kind of stigma around it and talking about it in that way makes it more difficult to admit certain things about that movie. And same with some of these thoughts in your head, like it makes it more difficult for me to admit that maybe I do have some ideations about like killing my classmates or something
Mm,
when it's in the context of how you're delivering it versus like if I got them alone in a room and I tried to be like super duper
yeah,
careful and
sure.
persuasive, I could easily get it out of them,
And with
right?
cuties, I mean, if you see the, you know, death threat dog pile on me, like you're going to be less likely to say whatever it was I was saying about cuties, even if you agree. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Or like in that classroom, if you look around, you see everybody's like, "Oh my God, this guy might kill us all." You're like, oh, "Okay, I don't believe in that shit either." No, this guy's fucking crazy. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. Um,
I
have
guess
you?
I don't take
Oh,
responsibility for that, though. I think that's the teacher's fault. In the classroom story, I think it's the teacher's fault. And on Vosh's stream,
okay,
I think it's Vosh's fault.
okay. Um, do you ever feel like it's your fault? Like you could have done a better job of communicating or presenting the idea to get more people to admit or agree with you?
But that's not my goal. So yeah, it's my fault that didn't happen, I guess. But I'm not trying to do that. I know how to get people to admit. I know how to get people to admit to shit. I'm not just not trying to do that. I know how to like ease somebody into talking about or doing something that they find uncomfortable. I just don't want to.
Okay. And that was going to be my follow-up question is like the number one, I want to know if you know that that's there. And number two, like, are you
Mhm.
making the decision against being that way, against being more persuasive? Do you,
It feels dishonest.
I get that a lot as the rhetoric guy, because like what I always tell people is like, well, you want to communicate your idea in the way where it's going to click with more people can at least respect or understand where you're coming from. I think that's oftentimes whether people think so or not, their goal in communicating is they want to be heard, they want to be understood at the very least. And then it is nice if you could also get agreement out of the other person or bring out of them that they feel that way as well, or that I didn't feel that way before. I didn't think I did, but actually, you mentioning this, I do.
Hmm.
I would
Yeah,
think
it's
that like
much more persuasive.
yeah,
But
doesn't it
I don't
make you happy to have that happen more often?
no.
No. Okay.
To have people agree with me or to persuade people, I don't want to persuade. Uh if somebody agrees with me, even though I said something in an unpersuasive way, I'm much more comfortable with that than if I know I led them in a loop and got them to it. And I don't want to communicate that way. That like the first thing I said in the classroom of discussing the school shooting was anybody who says they've never thought about shooting 32 people is lying. And um, the point of the sentence is that you're lying. And
Okay.
so I'm not trying to get them to stop lying by saying that. I'm trying to not lie myself. I'm trying to say like what the fuck are we all talking about? What are you guys talking about? Like stop. And the goal of that is not actually to create a like affect a shift in the conversation where they do stop. It's like a protest. And
Okay.
it's like an emotional expression. Like I want to say it because I'm thinking it. There's no way to protest people not saying what they're thinking by also not saying what I'm thinking. If I'm thinking you're lying, and then I think, okay, well, what's the most diplomatic way to say this? Then I'm immediately doing the thing I'm trying to get people to stop doing. So
Yes,
right?
but I don't think you have to lie.
I can't well, I don't believe that. I mean, like I've had a lot of people give me this feedback where they're like, if you could just like tweak your messaging a little. And I'm like, I don't want to. That you're telling me to sand off the rough edges when the rough edges are the point of what I'm saying.
That's
What
interesting because I actually think like um I think you can still be completely truthful and say everything you mean to communicate, but present ideas, questions, things like that in a
this is a
different
nightmare.
order.
Wait, no, what you're saying is a horrible nightmare.
Well, I haven't even explained like what the recommendation is yet. Like
Oh God.
like
Okay, I'll sit through it, but I hate it. I hate what you're about
um
to say.
so let's say that there are three things you want to say that are personal truths, and this is your like your protest to people like I believe A, I believe B, and I believe C. And you guys are not saying you believe A and B and C, but I know that you do. Let's say that in one scenario, if I said A, B, and C in that order, we get 10% of people that understand you and are like, yeah, I feel the same way. Let's say that if instead of saying it in that order, we said C, B, A, and that made it 90% of everybody was willing to admit the thing that you think they already believe.
Uh-huh.
My advice, for instance, here, and it doesn't change the truth of whatever you
It
said,
does.
because you're
It
still
does. It
saying,
does. You can't say that reordering what you're saying doesn't change the meaning.
no, I'm not saying changing meaning. I'm saying it doesn't make it untruthful. You're still saying the same truths, just in a different order. It's a
What
presentation of.
talking about is not the truth of what you're saying. It's the truth of how you're communicating. My definition of liar is very expansive, and I would say
Okay.
that if if I'm thinking, um, I I burnt the stir fry that you told me to watch, but I ordered a pizza and it's going to be here in 20 minutes. If that's what I'm thinking, but then I say to Shaylin, dinner's going to be ready in 20 minutes, but we're having pizza instead because I burnt the stir fry, but the pizza's going to be here. It's the same information presented in order to make her less angry. And so if I'm thinking one and then I rejigger it to be the other one, I think I have to admit to myself that I of what I'm doing. It's not a lie, but it's not exactly honest. It's padding and placating, and it's a bit manipulative. Even
Strategic.
it's strategic, exactly, and so I get what you're saying, but I feel like communicating that way regularly, if I'm going to say something that people find upsetting, I would rather just let them get upset. I, I don't, I don't think not upsetting people is a good value.
Okay.
Really, I don't. It's not even if them being upset is preventing them from agreeing with me. I'm not saying it because I want them to agree with me. I the whole premise of your feedback is a bit off because you're implying that I wanted the conversation with the class to go like they were going to say, "Oh, if you've never thought about shooting 32 people, if you say that then you're lying." Wow, that's a really insightful thing to say, Max. Now that you say it, I have thought about shooting 32 people. That was so that was so thoughtful of you. Thank you for saying that. I know that's not going to be their reaction. Now, I didn't know their reaction was going to be to, call the police, but,
Right.
yeah.
Therein lies kind of where I'm going with it. Like, yeah, there are a bunch of reasons. So there could be the persuasive reason, there could be the I want to hear other people parrot what I'm saying, but there could also be the like I don't want the absolute worst scenario where I get the worst consequences of everything simply because of the order that I picked to say
But that's
things.
not the
Like,
absolute I mean, like, if I wanted to make it worse, I could just say, you
sure,
people
sure,
are
sure.
so fucking stupid that I bet if I brought a fucking gun to school tomorrow and aimed it at your fucking face, you'd probably still tell yourself the same fucking lies as I blew your stupid brains out. That would be the worst possible thing I could
Fair
say.
enough.
But I
Yes,
didn't
it's
say
not
that.
that. So,
I didn't say that.
but you believe that, do you? Wouldn't that be as truthful as the other things? Why didn't you
I
say it
believe.
that way?
Uh, yeah, I'm not arguing for total unfilteredness. And I'm
Oh,
not saying you should blur. I'm not saying if you see an attractive woman on the street, you should be like, nice boobies. I'm not saying that we should all blurt out whatever we're thinking all the time. That's not what I'm advocating for. I'm advocating for a shift in in a more humanizing, blunt, direct. Yes, it would be the most honest thing you could do would be to blurt out a string of incoherent thoughts. And I understand that you feel to some degree that is what I'm doing. But I feel what I'm doing is I know there's a social norm here, but I think it should just be like here. I think we can handle this.
yeah.
And you send me to jail and I still say, I still think you're wrong. I think you're just wrong. And then the district attorney comes in and he's like, well, maybe we are wrong. So I got, in a year we'll drop the charges. And then
Sure.
they did. So it's like, I know I'm on the edge of what is socially acceptable and talking about some of these topics. And a lot of times I'm not. So I'm not, most of my videos are not transgressive, right? A lot of my videos are like lukewarm takes about lukewarm topics.
Delivered in a upsetting way.
A lot of them aren't upsetting.
They're delivered in an upsetting way.
A lot of them aren't delivered in an upsetting way. A lot of them can't be
Ooh,
delivered in an upsetting.
the name of it.
like when I interview epidemiologist and she says social media is really screwing us up because people are believing anti-vax shit and now we can't trick people or convince we can't convince people again. She did not say trick. We can't convince people into getting vaccinated. They think we're trying to trick them. I mean, I guess to some people that's controversial, but it's not presented in a controversial way, or like
I mean, to use an example that we already have on the table,
like
the
action
cuties
movies are immoral. I made a video called "Action Movies Are Immoral," where I said it's immoral to glorify righteous violence and always keep the blood off the main character's hands somehow. But at the last second, the bad guy pulls out a gun and gives them an excuse to kill them. So it's not framed as murder. So we get to have our cake and eat it too. That's not controversial or transgressive. Yeah, women shouldn't wear makeup. Okay, that like it's worded in a transgressive way somewhat, but it's not. You're not going to have like people on Twitch doing the rounds interviewing me like, so wait, what did you say about women and makeup? Like a lot of what?
Oh, it just got choppy.
Oh, you're not gonna have people doing the rounds interviewing me about why I said women shouldn't wear makeup. It's not that transgressive. So you're making it sound like I'm saying things in the most upsetting possible way all the time. But this was 15 years ago, in it almost.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
like, there's the Virginia Tech, and then 15 years later, there's cuties, and yeah, I got suspended in high school and some stuff, but like,
So I already don't think you're doing it in the most upsetting way possible. You're making
Okay.
a decision not to do it in the most upsetting way possible. And because you're already making that decision, you recognize there's a runway to be much worse.
But
I'm saying, like,
I
you
don't
already
want.
made this arbitrary
I
decision to be
but I
cute.
didn't want to. The thing I said about bringing a gun to class and how stupid everybody is, I didn't want to say that. I said the thing. What I wanted to say. I had a thought. I said, this is a good thought. I want to say this, and I want to be able to say this. I think I should be able to say this. I think I should say it. And even if I think that you're not going to be able to handle it, I think you should handle it or you should learn to handle it. So I'm going to fucking say it anyway. That's my thought process. It's more like there's something I want to say, and then I have these inhibiting thoughts of like, well, are you sure that's a good idea? And I say, yeah, Booksmarts, I am sure it's a good idea, and then I just say it anyway.
Okay. And all I'm trying to give you advice for is like avoiding the worst of consequences. That's where I'll start. Not I'll go back from like you could be more convincing to people. You could get more people to admit that they believe in what you believe. I'll move away from that, and I'll move all the way back to like we're avoiding the worst consequences possible already. You're making a decision to do that by not saying in the most inflammatory way you could imagine possible.
But
so why not be a little bit better to avoid things like
de-
getting banned on Twitch or something like that, right?
Declawing what I'm saying. So for money or for social praise is the worst consequence possible.
Although I didn't say at any point it would be for like money or social praise.
But you said
at
so I
this
don't
point.
get banned on Twitch.
Sure.
No, that's for money.
Are you on Twitch only for money?
Money.
Mm-hmm.
And then artistic expression or political expression so people can hear me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Money and self-expression.
Okay. You could express yourself for longer and to express yourself more and to more people, frankly, if you just make a couple little compromises or move in that direction.
But then I won't be expressing myself. I'll be expressing a compromised version of myself, and I would rather get banned.
Okay. Do you think there is compromise in, for instance, changing the order in which the thoughts pop in your head?
Yes.
And you think that's a significant difference?
I think it's more significant than you are. I think if the deal with the devil that my audience is making is I will give you myself as directly and straightforwardly as I can. I'm not going to say it's unfiltered because it is filtered. It's thought about, and it's written, it's edited, and it's shot, and it's carefully lit and everything. It's filtered, but it's my filter, and it's my filter I'm choosing because I think it's right. And I'm going to say and do what I think is the right thing to do. And that I'm on a moral and artistic crusade. And I promise you, I'm going to tell you what I think is the truth. The trade-off for that is I cannot, if that's what people are buying into, I cannot then say, but I also didn't want to upset you or provoke you too much, so I reworded this a little bit just so it would go down easier. Because I don't want to get banned.
Sure. In case it wasn't clear, I totally understand this. That you have an artistic image, you have something you're going for, and compromising on that image is something you're not willing to do.
So what so either you're saying I should, or you're trying to change my definition of compromise.
Right now, I'm just trying to make sure that we're on the same page. That I understand what you're saying with the artistic thing.
Yes. Okay.
Okay. Cool. And then I guess like it would almost be like.
You're like the devil on my shoulder. You're the voice in my head.
I'm like your PR rep.
You're what?
I'm like your PR person. Like,
yeah, but
I want your art to get to as many people as possible.
You know, I actually have a PR person.
Oh.
Yeah.
I don't envy their position.
Yeah. His job is to tell me when I can't post something.
Okay. So he's the thumbs down guy. He's the guy that says, "Ooh, too spicy, too hot for TV," kind of deal.
No, too boring.
Oh, too boring.
He tells me when things are too long, or when nobody gives a shit about them. So like when I bought my drone, I made a video about me and Shaylin testing the drone and us fighting about the drone and me like yelling at her and then flying the drone around and like and he was like, you could post this on Patreon, but then what does that say to the patrons? I'm going to give you the video that was too shitty to post on the main channel. And I was like, yeah. And he was like, it's boring. He was like, listen, every time someone comes to the channel, it should be like there's like a treat waiting for them. This isn't a treat. And then I said, okay.
So he determines the worth of your art and is a filter between other people, the whole world, in your art and your message. So he stands between other people and actually hearing what you wanted to communicate in the first place.
Yeah, he's the friend when you have beer goggles. His job is to approximate after the beer goggles wore off and I wake up in the morning. What am I going to think of myself and the person I had sex with? And his job, he's trying to be the future Mr. Girl. I've come back through time to tell you that video was boring and it was a mistake.
Okay. I guess if I were to think about like my goal being to help this filter along and to improve it, because I do think you have a filter, which you've already discussed, right?
I can tell you that he's going to be very angry. If he's watching this now, he's going to be exceedingly angry at you, and it's particularly what you're about to say. But go on.
Yeah. Because all I'm trying to do, I know everybody has a filter, so all I'm trying to do is appeal to whoever is in charge of that filter, whether you're in charge of your own filter or whether you've externalized this to this other person.
No, he is the gas, and I'm the brakes. So I would be the one to decide something is going too far. That's not his job. His job is to tell me when I'm being boring. So he
could lie to you. He could say like, "Oh, I don't think that would be very interesting." But
sure, but like it'll be very obvious because our positions are at opposite ends of the job. We're like, is the cuties review? He's going to look at the cuties review and be like, "Hey, listen, I just don't think that this is going to get much of a reaction from anybody." Like he's not going to say that. He could say that. It's possible he could convince me. I find it very unlikely. I think.
A good liar wouldn't do that. Yeah. Because it'd be obvious.
He didn't watch the cuties review before I posted it. Because he was like, he's like, there's no reason to watch it. Like you're talking about, you're gonna give your blunt thoughts about cuties. Like, sure, whatever. And then when I posted it, he was like, this could have been a little shorter. That his only concern was that it was too boring and meandering. Not that like he's never gonna tell me like, don't say this because it's too upsetting. So that he's a filter, but on the other end, you would be the filter or suggesting a filter on the end of too spicy, right?
necessarily. I mean, there could be a billion reasons, right? Like when we talked about the
But we're
order,
talking
it's
about
not about the
provocation.
size.
We're talking about provocation. You're saying I'm unnecessarily and self-defeatingly provocative, and that I could be less provocative while still being interesting, still being a cool guy, still getting my point across. If I just tweaked things a little bit, it might reach a broader audience and be more compelling.
Provocative is a way of putting it, though I think it gets a few steps removed from the nuance of it. I can accept provocative though.
Okay.
Because like I don't think it's any more or less provocative in a lot of cases to change ABC to like CBA. It doesn't really change the substance of what you're saying,
And
whatever.
right, and I think it's everything. I think that changes everything.
But you don't even know what A, B, and C represent. You have no idea. It could very well
I
that if I say CBA, you're like, actually, my artistic instinct tells me that CBA is better. I don't know why I said ABC, right?
well, I know that you're suggesting changing them for the purpose of making it less provocative, which I don't want to do.
To communicate what you're trying to communicate better. Like if the art
Better,
could communicate
but better is
ideas
doing a
better.
lot of work there. By better, you
Yes,
mean easier to swallow.
maybe in one
I
part.
ain't a gummy vitamin factory. Okay, these are jagged little pills that I want to be manufacturing.
But
Not
not too jagged. You put a filter on yourself to make them not too jagged, right?
yeah.
But that jaggedness, you want full control over. Nobody can convince you out of it any other way. Nobody can move you on that jaggedness.
Yeah, I want the amount of jaggedness that I want. Like I said, a lot like action movies are immoral. It's not jagged. It's not a provocative video. It's got like violence and stuff in it, but it's just like a fun video that I think is like an important point I wanted to make. So yeah, I'm not. It's not the jaggedness is not the point. It's the unwillingness to sand down the jaggedness. I didn't say the thing in the classroom because it was provocative, but I didn't not say it because I didn't want to I didn't want to dumb it down.
You don't want provocativeness to be influencing whether you are or aren't saying something or how you're saying something.
Right, because it's not
Um,
interesting. If you got the cuties review would not have gone viral and nobody would be talking about it if you thought I was saying it because it's upsetting. Like I'm just giving my honest thoughts after seeing the movie. That's what makes the video so provocative. If I said like I'm going to say the most fucked up shit possible after the movie, nobody would care about that because we all know what you could say, and like yeah, my willingness to say it might be funny to you, but it's not that interesting. What's interesting is if I am saying what I actually believe and I'm stopping myself from holding it in. I'm letting it out despite knowing that it's going to come off as really weird to a lot of people.
hmm. Although some people definitely do like you because it's almost like flirting, where it's like a will they, won't they. I've talked to quite a few people who enjoy you or find you interesting because
Hmm.
they're not sure if you are 100% truthful on some stuff.
I
Like
know. That's why
they
I made a video called "The Cuties Review is Not Satire,"
yeah. I think
and
way too often people think you're joking when you're not, and it's kind of frustrating.
I agree because and I see people arguing with each other or people who want to defend me on Twitter being like that was satire, and then I have to be like publicly like, no, it wasn't satire, and then they're
Yeah.
like, oh shit.
You don't understand a joke, bro. He's not joking.
Right,
Like
yeah, and
I know.
it makes me look bad because of the deal I'm saying I made with my audience where I'm like I'm going to be honest with you. If I'm seen as going around saying like it's just a prank, bro, um that's that's kind of horrible. Like I don't want to make people feel bad just to get it to make money. I'm not trying to make people feel bad to get attention. I don't want to do that. I think in exchange for the bad feelings, I have to be saying I'm being really honest with you, and there's a point to it, like a, a greater artistic or moral point that I am trying to make. I think it's a good
Yeah.
thing. I'm trying to be a good person, and I think that triggering people and laughing about it is not outside of certain venues, like maybe a stand-up act. I broadly, especially in today's political climate, I think is a bit ugly. And I don't think it is a morally good thing to do. I think it makes people hate each other more, which is the
Hmm.
opposite of what I want.
Okay. I think I've done as much as I could with this. Like, because I'm just trying to appeal to you as the artist, because I think whether stated or not, it is better to exist in a world where your art got to more people. And I do think that if there's some 0.005% compromise, it is worth it at some point if it gets like such and such amount more people to find your work, or to
But
engage
then
with
it's
it,
not.
right?
But then
Like,
it's not my work anymore.
it would still be your work. Anything that comes out of you is your work, whether you want to identify with it
No,
or not, right? Like,
I would have changed. It would
well, if
be.
you came out with a video tomorrow that was not truthful or per your own thing, it would still be your work. Everybody would count it as your
Yeah, but
work.
you know what I'm saying.
Yeah,
You're saying don't you want your it would be not my voice anymore. You're saying don't you want your voice to reach the broadest arguments? The broadest audience. I'm saying that.
not necessarily the broadest, but like there are tiny compromises you can make in your brain that you're already making, and I'm just trying to appeal to that because it's already happening.
You're
You're
very
already making
this is
those.
very manipulative.
That's how I talk.
Why? Why is that? Why let's turn the
um,
tables. Why are you so
okay.
manipulative? Why do you think that's a good thing to do to yourself or others?
Manipulative is optically bad, but I'll bite the bullet on it.
Okay.
So the reason is because a lot of the purpose behind my communication is to get people to understand me, or respect where I'm coming from, or in this case, to change minds a little bit, right? Because I'm trying to communicate to like the core of you as an artist and get you thinking, whether subconsciously or consciously, in a way that will lead to more people engaging with your art later down the road. So if
But
I
you
can have any impact on that, I'm going to try to do it in the best way possible.
but
And
you
this
want
is
them to understand you in a carefully presented way.
I think
You're not
the
really giving
ideas are
you're
separate
not
from me.
you're not giving people the tools to peek behind the curtain exactly. It's you're much more careful with how you present stuff.
Yeah, because I think a difference between us is you have a very deep connection to your art, and because of that, a compromise on the part of the art is almost like a compromise on the part of you, and at that point, they're out of sync and they're not the same thing. For me, like the ideas are what I'm trying to communicate, and I feel like they exist separately from the body that communicates them. So I can make a lot of compromises in communicating the idea because I'm just serving the idea. I'm just trying to communicate an idea or a feeling to people, and I'm very flexible in what that has to look like for different people for them to come away with that emotion or that idea.
And so what's your goal as a content creator?
My goal as a content creator is to communicate those ideas and emotions to as many people as I can.
Persuasively? Like
um,
do you want other people to adopt your ideas or you just want them to hear them?
I just want respect. I just want them to understand where I'm coming from and to respect it. That's all.
What does respect mean to you?
It means that they feel it's valid. They heard it. They could see themselves growing up in my body with my experiences and believing that thing. That's why, like, when you didn't believe that my internal experiences I was describing it
Is
was true,
invalidating.
it was like, yeah.
And okay, so we all want external validation. Is there another meaning to when you say that you want people to think what you're saying is valid? Beyond like making you feel smart, which we all want.
That's not really the point for me.
Yeah.
Um,
I know. I'm assuming that there's something else you meant by that. I want to know what it is.
Yeah, I think that for more people to have some of the ideas that I'm communicating on stream, I think it would be better for their lives and for the world. So, for instance, empathy. I think if I can get people to become more habitually empathetic, to go to that as a tool in their toolbox rather than to like discriminate, or rather than to jump to conclusions about people, or rather than to like intellectualize why they have a hatred or a negative emotion about somebody, that's something that I feel would be better for the world and for individuals to adopt. And so oftentimes I feel like these ideas have been personally fulfilling in my life, and they've really helped me in situations where if I didn't have them, my life would be worse. So I try to give that to other people who may not have grown up with my same experiences and learned those same lessons or encountered those same ideas. Like with the cuties thing, I tried to really get people to even watch it because it's honestly it's a good movie. And beyond that, I don't want people shitting on something they haven't seen,
Yeah.
because it's all of us contributing to that led to like this lady choosing not to make movies anymore, when like that was really good, and I would have rather lived in a world where she didn't get that criticism and got to keep making movies where people
Yeah.
understood Yes.
And empathy helps preclude a dog pile. Is what you're saying.
A little bit, yeah, yeah, for sure.
And so you see me preaching some of the same stuff, or a lot of the same ideas. Like it seems like we have a lot of the same values and even goals. And
Yeah, I think so.
you see me doing it in a way that you think is not persuasive. And if given the choice to persuade or provoke, even if provoking might be more intellectual, not artistically uh, honest, if there even is such a thing, but I think you know what I mean.
Yeah.
You're saying that the greater good dictates that you persuade, choose persuading over that.
A little bit, yes. Although it's tough for me to know because I don't know how much of like the good of your positions and stuff has come from this unwavering dedication to be true to yourself. Like if I were to more honestly word it, it would be it makes me very sad that I understand a lot of the stuff that you're saying, but other people simply cannot because of the way that it's presented. That makes me feel bad because I got value out of listening to you and understanding you because I worked hard to see past those things, and other people are just incapable of that for one reason or another at this moment. They were not able to see past it. And so I think if I can like move you at all or even get you to consider that on like future messages or future conversations, it'll help everybody because I want more people to understand and grapple with your ideas, not to be like taken aback by their presentation solely, because I don't feel like that's fair, but it's like an observable thing that's happening and it's fixable by you in a way that I don't think would compromise your art personally. Although we may have a difference of opinion there, and I think that's fair because you're the artist.
Hmm. We have a big fucking difference of opinion there. I think that one thing that Destiny has done for me, or maybe the main thing, is sort of help translate, or not even translate, but more like just give people the okay to engage with me. After last year, creators with millions of followers gave people the not okay to engage with me, and it took a long time. And then like my channel was shut down for 4 months, so it took a very long time to kind of recover from. Um, and I think that part of the problem for me with what you're suggesting is that I'm also in protest of the norm itself.
Okay.
And that I'm like, if we all start being more blunt, and if we all stop shaving off the rough edges, then we can just talk about things more directly and I think more interestingly, and it won't be as provocative because we'll get used to it. We'll understand and we'll trust each other more.
Yeah, I think there's a balance there on both sides.
And you think I've gone too
Um,
far?
yes, but I would also, from your perspective, see how I go too far in the other direction. I think both of us are at extremes here in what we believe, if I'm being like wholly honest.
I don't know if you're at an extreme. I mean, you're willing to get into some pretty murky territory in this conversation. There's people who wouldn't even watch it or admit that they watched it. So I don't think you're at an extreme, but I get we're at, and within this argument, obviously, yeah, that's the side you're on. Um, okay, so then I think it comes down to, have you seen or read Watchmen?
Yeah.
Okay, so it comes down to the hypothetical of like the Rorschach's diary.
Hmm.
Are you gonna drop it in the drop box at the newspaper? Like, is it better to be honest, even if it leads to self destruction,
Hmm.
or is it better to um, be more pragmatic? And I think that I would rather be dead
Yeah. Um,
than compromise.
I'll be honest with you. Yeah, I probably wouldn't drop it into the Dropbox. I probably wouldn't share that information with the world, but that's because like I'm looking at the two futures and I prefer one over the other.
And I'm not looking at the future when I make that decision.
Right.
The day I got arrested, they put me in the drunk tank for like 4 or 5 hours with like the saddest people imaginable, passed out on the floor and puking or having just puked. And then they pulled me out, and the arresting officer said, do you want to give us permission to search your house for weapons? Or should I come back and ask you again tomorrow? And I knew they didn't have a warrant, but I could consent to the search, and I didn't have any weapons. I had some like pellet guns, but I wasn't going to get arrested. That maybe they'd confiscate them because they look real. But like, it seemed very likely, at least the way he was wording it and the way my brain was working. Like, if I let him into my house and he sees there's no plans, there's no, I don't own any guns. Like, they might drop the charges tonight. And the way he's wording it is like, I won't be held. Maybe they'll stop detaining me, and I can just go home and go to sleep, or I can spend the night in jail. And just the way he asked me made me feel like I can't, even though I could have avoided everything that came after that. I think if I had just said yes, I just said, I think you better come back and ask me again tomorrow. And I just couldn't. And part of me wanted to do it. And I get what you're saying, but I couldn't do it. I can't stand it. It's not, I think I should say it's not like, it is a moral stance kind of, but I also can't stand it. I think even if I wanted to do what you're suggesting, I would freak out. I don't even know if I can do it.
Okay.
It is very distasteful for me to be in situations where people are telling me what I have to say beyond what I think is reasonable. Like I think you can't threaten to kill people, you can't dox people, you can't scream in somebody's ear. Like, that shit's fine, but I can't handle it.
It has to be on your terms at the end of the day, no matter what. And that's why I'm like appealing to you as like a dude, you know, like I'm just hoping, whether consciously, subconsciously, whatever, I do impact you at like a deeper level to where it doesn't feel weird. You're like, no, this is my decision.
I think it might be backfiring, but I think you might have made it worse.
Maybe. I thought it was worth a shot, you know.
It was.
I'm happy you think so.
Okay, so you're basically saying I'm an asshole.
No.
A little bit.
You can be.
Well, you're saying I'm leaning in the direction of asshole, and that I should rein it in a little bit.
No, you're just not willing to compromise on like.
Well, that's what an asshole is. Is somebody who's uncompromising.
Depends on what they're saying, right?
Well, you're not saying I'm like, you're not saying like, wow, I'm so impressed that you're so strong-willed and like that you see so clearly through the fog, and that you know what the right thing to do is and you do it. And you're not calling me brave. You're calling me a prick. I'm
not calling you a prick. Like, we're getting into one of those moments where like, this is not what I'm saying. Like, I respect you as an artist. I respect you make these artistic decisions and whatever. I don't think that makes you an asshole or anything like that. You're just unwavering. Stubborn. Stubborn's probably a much better word.
Are you willing to? You're not willing to call me a prick?
No, I don't think you're a prick.
Okay.
I think you're stubborn. I don't think you're a prick.
Okay. All right. Stubborn.
You were a bit of a prick earlier when you wouldn't believe me about stuff, but
See?
I don't think.
See?
Everyone can be a prick. I can be a prick too. It doesn't mean you think I'm a prick, right?
Yeah, but I feel like your main argument is that I'm uncompromising. I think prick is just there's a shorthand, but I understand you want it to be read with a little more softly and with more nuance.
in part, but I also just don't feel like Prick aligns with what I'm thinking in my head. Like optics aside, convincing you aside,
Yeah.
Prick is further off the mark from what I honest to God believe, even if I talked like Mr. Girl and I had like no filter and I said it exactly how I wanted to. Stubborn would be how I would
Okay,
say
what would
it.
you say if you had no filter?
Stubborn. You're stubborn.
Stubborn.
You
Okay.
don't want to compromise on this thing,
No.
even though I think you could see value in it.
Yeah.
But it makes you uncomfortable, and that idea, that discomfort, puts you away from it. You're like, no, I don't even want to change the order. No, the way it came out of my head is the perfect way that it is. I'm not compromising this at all because if I compromise on this, what kind of artist does that make me? I'm not Mr. Girl anymore. I'm not the
Okay.
honest guy anymore.
And
Um,
I think you're being too careful
in calling you stubborn,
in your life.
fair enough. Maybe.
I
Maybe I
think
could do with a bit more Mr. Girlism.
yeah, I guess. I mean, I don't know. I'm not trying to say everybody should be like me, but I guess if you're saying I'm stubborn, then my pushback would be maybe you're too careful.
Fair enough.
Maybe you should upset people more.
I'm trying to in 2022. I'm trying to debate and be more fighty. Like this is more fighting than I usually ever do on stream.
How do you how do you feel about it? This conflict that we've had to some degree. How do you feel about it?
I feel good. I feel like if I wouldn't have fought you, I wouldn't have understood you better. It's kind of like I don't know. Have you seen Naruto? Do you know what that is?
I've never seen it.
Okay. It's this like anime that's about like ninjas that fight. And sometimes when one really powerful ninja fights another one, they feel like they share like a bond. They understand each other more deeply because of that. And it's a bond you can only get by fighting. I feel like I've established some of that and I'm starting to see it. There's a value to really getting in conflict with people because I'm understanding it better. Um,
Um, I appreciate you doing that with me.
I appreciate you talking with me, honestly.
Anytime.
All right. Do you have more time for other stuff, or
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not sure
yeah.
what you got?
You said that. I thought you were done. Yeah, sure. What else you got?
I have tons of stuff. I'm a never-ending stream of talking points, so
Okay.
I could go on all day.
Okay. What else you got?
Um, so, do you think that the remarks and the kind of discourse that you stir around, kind of like, I don't know how to call them besides like pedophilic ideas. These are the way that people are attracted to children or the relationship between their sexual feelings towards children. Do you see that as like core to who you are as an artist and the things that you're going to be communicating, or do you think that this is just a period and you're going to have another period after this where you focus on another kind of topic?
Yeah, I think it's just feels. I mean, I was talking about gender a lot this summer and fall, and I'll still talk about it on streams. But like for now, I've said everything I have to say about it. So I think that I'll make my big pedophile video, which will be more fact based. I've got a couple pedophiles interested in me interviewing them. I've got some connections to experts who, I mean, if my channel keeps growing at the rate that it is, I think it'll hopefully be easier to get in touch with them. Because man, for the other videos to get an interview, like maybe 1% or 2% of people respond to my emails. So it would be nice to be able to be a little lazier about that. And yeah, I'll make my big pedophile video. I'll say my stance. I'll say my research. I'll say why I think what I think about it. And I'll interview my pedophiles. And then, if people still want to talk about it, I will. But I probably won't bring it up. And in my music, like, I probably won't be making, like, it was a reaction to a big fight that I had with like people or society. And now like yeah. I think what's interesting to me about it now is that it's like the edge of empathy, where
Yeah.
it's where most people say, let's just kill them. And you're talking about people who are fucking sad and lonely, and like, yeah, they want to hurt children, but like a lot of people want to hurt children or will hurt children who aren't pedophiles, and a lot of people want to hurt each other and do horrible shit. And the righteous violence and violent fantasies and all that shit. It freaks me out, and I think it extends to all of society. So I think if we can start treating pedophiles better, we can treat everybody better, and we can empathize, and Oh, and people keep saying like I don't think pedophiles should get help. If you're a pedophile, you should go to therapy and try to not be a pedophile, or try to make it so you can't harm children. Like I'm not trying to I'm not trying to say treat pedophiles better by letting me marry an 8-year-old. That's not what I'm fucking saying. So I think that what's interesting to me is it's a group of people that people feel good about saying horrible shit about and saying they want to kill. So I think that's why I'm interested in it.
Okay. Do you see any other societal fights that you're getting into that might be the inspiration for your next arc, or?
Well, yeah. So like I did the Black Lives Matter. I feel like my professor videos where I put on my tie and get in front of my projector. I feel like those are kind of like my conclude. Like once I'm done batting an idea around and I really want to nail it down and nail down what I think. My Black Lives Matter video, I watched as many shootings of black people, or I guess all people, police shootings of unarmed people that I could get my hands on. The Washington Post has a database of police shootings, so you can like comb through it all. I read like I think over half of the news stories, like maybe like 200 or something, maybe 250, just because like it was like I was looking at statistically first, and then I was like, oh, a lot of these stories are short. I could just read what happened in all of them, and then just kind of like I'll have my own sense of what is going on. And then I like laid all my thoughts about like police's relationship with black people and blah blah. And like now, yeah, it's so I think that makes sense for me to kind of do shorter opinion stuff or talks or maybe more artistic videos about a topic, and then at the end just kind of have like a big essay video that just lays out everything I think. So I think pedophilia is next, and then race realism is another thing I want to get into. I want to start believing it. No, I want to start. I'm assuming I'm going to debunk it, but I have people in my DMs constantly who are like, "Listen, you're good because you're Ashkenazi. Like you have superior genetics. Don't worry." Which is not true. I think I'm 1/4 or 3/8 Ashkenazi or something. Like I'm not. I ain't that Ashkenazi, but I look it. So they're like, dude, on the gene hierarchy, the racial hierarchy, like this isn't gonna make you feel bad. And they send me like some like, article written by what I believe to be a white supremacist, what they believe to be a free thinking scientist. But I'll find what I find, and I trust myself to be objective enough. So if I have to make some like disturbing statements about IQs or whatever, then I will. I don't really anticipate that happening, but it's not something I've looked into a lot. Yeah, so I think race realism and pedophilia are probably the next two, but that's not a promise. That's just
Okay.
kind of what I'm toying with.
And it is ultimately up to the artist thing. So if you're feeling it about something else, you'll do the something else, I'm sure.
Yeah.
One thing, and I'm not usually the logic or like the debate or like the thinking guy, but one thing that I see that might be a problem that you'll want to keep in mind in your research, and Stephen kind of touched on this with you, and I wish he argued it a little bit better,
Mm-hmm.
is to worry about and put like a flag in the dirt for non-falsifiable beliefs. Like what we had about like sexual stuff is like a component of everything.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you have a belief that is non-falsifiable, to be careful about that. And if any of those come up during your research, that would be something to keep in mind. Just because other debaters and other researchers, I see that become a problem in their research because it taints the way they interpret all of their sources, and it keeps them one step removed from like a truth that they could otherwise see.
I think I prefer to just disclose that. So I think that I put a lot of myself in my videos, even when I'm presenting data. Like I think I said something about like in my big gender video, in the middle of it, I'm like, if I cut my dick off, everyone on Twitter would reward me. If I cut my dick off and said I'm a girl now, rewards would be heaped on me. And like whether you agree that that's true or you think that's affecting people transitioning or whatever, it's a very blunt, almost discrediting way of saying, like, I am fixated on the idea that people are trying to convince me to cut my dick off. And I kind of am fixated on that. Like, that's something that haunts me. It freaks me out feeling like this nice movement is actually, the whole movement is trying to convince me to become a woman and specifically to cut my dick off, which is
Can
like,
I push back on that at all?
well, but let me finish.
Oh, sure. Sorry.
So that's unfalsifiable. I'm saying that's just a feeling I have. And so my point in disclosing that is not to convince people it's true. It is not convincing at all. It's to get you to see that 5 minutes later, when I'm saying, so here's this like study, the blah, blah, blah. I want you to know the guy who's saying this is the same guy who was ranting about people trying to cut his dick off 5 minutes ago. So, do with that what you will. But you gotta approach this with a grain of salt. And so I prefer to provide my own grains of salt and say, like, I will do the best I can. Whatever I notice, I'm doing the video because I'm super emotional about it. Like, to the extent of being a bit unhinged. And so I don't think I'm unhinged. I think that I'm like fighting a righteous crusade. But I know that externally objectively, it is kind of unhinged. So I try to include that as a buffer against what you're talking about. Where, yeah, don't. I'm not saying you should believe what I believe. Just here's what I think, and here are the fucked up emotions and thought processes that don't quite make sense that are accompanying what I'm saying or accompanying my beliefs, so that you have more context. Which I think actually makes it less convincing, which is important to me. I'm not trying to convince people to agree with me. It's more I'm trying to share my findings and my unhinged terror of a bunch of liberals holding me down and cutting my dick off. It has to be part of that.
Yeah, like a disclaimer of sorts.
Yeah.
And like on that point in particular, I feel like there's different ways we could interpret the same phenomena that you and I are both looking at. So I would agree you would get brownie points for cutting your dick off and becoming
yeah.
But
that's what that.
Yeah, I wouldn't like it either, but I really like being a boy and having a penis. So I wouldn't be happy with it either. But
I am my penis.
I don't go that far. I wouldn't go that
You're
far.
cutting me. You'd be cutting my body off.
Yeah. Like
and
if
I would be
everybody got
gone.
on a trend of cutting off their pinky, I wouldn't be happy cutting off my pinky either.
Right. Okay.
You
think your dick is like your pinky? I mean, you'd probably
no, they're not equivocated.
You'd cut off all your fingers before you cut off your dick. Surely, right? How many?
No.
How many fingers would you? It's time for a hypothetical. How many fingers would you be willing to cut off before your dick? This tests how much of a idiot.
Maybe
you are.
four. Maybe four.
So you're saying you're saying it's so okay.
Do with this.
But if you lose this one, you'd say just take my dick instead.
At that point, yeah. I really like my hands.
Sorry.
And I really need them.
I'm so sorry.
I got like a decent tongue and fingers. I could do. I mean, I could get by
Your
with that.
Your dick is not for other people, dude. It's for
me,
you.
I don't feel like that, but.
You think your dick is not? You think your dick is for other people? Okay, you are too nice. I take it back. I equivocated earlier. You need to.
I mean, I like it. Obviously, it's not like I'm like, oh, it is only for other people.
No, you say you like it. You say you like it like it's your coworker, but your job is to please other people with it. That's not what your dick is for. The pleasure that other people get from your dick is purely incidental.
I get pleasure by using my penis on other people. Sure, there's some pleasure by like beating my own meat or something, but I don't.
There's some pleasure beating your meat.
There is, but I would get more pleasure out of having like all my fingers. I could do more with that in life. I feel like there's a lot more stuff important to me that I need my fingers for.
Like, do you love fingering your ass? You're talking about fingering other people. Oh, sure, but not to the extent that you're talking about fingering other people. You're talking about being a people
No, I'm
pleaser.
talking about using my hands for all sorts of things. My hands are far more useful in many, many cases than my
Oh, I got
penis. I
sexual. I
rarely
got
use.
sexual connotations from the way you're saying that.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I just think these are like way more utility. Like I need these for so much.
I would go full Stephen Hawking before I let you take my dick.
Damn. Well, you also think that like sex is like an intrinsic part of like kind of like everything, so that kind of fits into the worldview. I can understand that, but damn, that's so different. That's crazy.
I had this health problem a couple years ago where I couldn't walk for without aids for like a couple months, and I was like, I had to take medication to be able to walk, and I was like, so I was able to think about this because I was like, lying in bed, unable to stand up, happily jerking off, and I was like, this is better. Because the neurologist was like, "Are you having like any erectile issues?" And I was like, "No, I'm not. Nope." And
Quite the opposite.
quite the opposite, yeah. Because it was like a blood pressure regulation problem where all my blood pressure would drop precipitously every time I stood up.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. Um, so that's just my experience. Okay, we're different people. That's fine. I know that.
Yeah.
Okay, so did you still want to push back, or my disclosure was enough for you to understand, kind of like that I'm not trying to get people just to agree with me.
I get that you're not trying to get people just to agree with you. Yeah. And I think that you get that I just want more people to like engage with your art and understand it. And I think we understand each other pretty well.
Okay.
And then I'm happy to move on to more stuff. You just tell me whenever you have to go because you're a very popular and busy man. I understand.
I'm basically only doing one booking a day, one Booksmarts per day.
Ooh, well,
Yeah.
that pacing is probably good. That'll keep you.
Yeah,
in
I
the
got to
game
keep
for
from burning
longer.
out. I do have to work on my next YouTube video at some point, and then it is New Year's Eve. But yeah.
Mm. Man, what is the process like for you on making a video? Like, how long does it take? Is it like research outline script? Like, how does that go?
I think it depends on the video. Uh, the NFT video I've been working on for like a month now.
Ooh, NFT video.
Yeah, I'm investigating Stone Toss's NFT release.
Ooh.
Yeah, he sold 20. He sold in 20 minutes. He sold $2 million worth of NFTs, and
$1 million.
$2 million in 20 minutes. And Stone Toss is a political cartoonist that some view as a white supremacist. On Reddit, he's like seen as a Nazi, and I interviewed him. I don't think he's a Nazi, but I think his cartoon is kind of immoral. I'll say his work is white supremacist, but I don't believe that he is. He's actually seems like a pretty nice guy, if not odd. But and also he was only typing in my interview with him. He wouldn't talk to me because he's like, very protective of nobody knows who he is. But yeah, so I saw a bunch of creators I know promoting his NFT on Twitter, and like a ton of people, and then it sold out in 20 minutes. And I was like, I want NFTs already feel scary, and the mystery of them, like how easy it is to scam people, because there's no way to verify any of the transactions. I bought a hat, a trench coat, and I'm going to work.
Mm.
I think that's going to take a while though. And then
How do you organize this research that you're doing?
Google Docs.
And you just like put bullet points or?
Yeah, just any ideas. Like, okay, so like for the gender video, whether it's a argument, an idea, or I see an article on Twitter or whatever, yeah, I'll just have one big document that just has everything. and then I need an outline, and so I'll start putting things into sections, and then I need a script. But like those videos are very structured. But like, yeah, I need a script, so then I'll write the script from and make sure I've included or decided not to include everything, and or I guess then there's a research where I have to watch all the videos and read everything and look at all, click on all my links one by one and make sure whether I want to include it and get my PDFs made and screenshots and everything, and then script, and then PowerPoint slide, and then film, and then I'm a very fast editor, so editing is usually the easiest part.
Oh, good.
Yeah. The Cuties review, I just watched. I mean, that's like almost a confessional. So I just watched the movie and then just say like, put the camera on, don't hold back, don't think too much about what you're saying, blurt it out, and then like I'm like, just say it, and I'll handle it later. I convince myself. I'm like, don't worry. Like just say it, and then later when I'm editing, I'm like, you dumb fuck, I'm gonna put this in, and then I put it together and post it. Well, no, then I send it to my editor,
Right.
who gives it the thumbs up or the thumbs down, and like 99% of the time it's thumbs up, and then I post it.
How did that guy get that position? Like, how did he earn your trust to be that final filter?
The Last of Us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you ever play The Last of Us?
Yes.
You ever play Factions?
No, I don't think so.
You ever play online multiplayer in any game?
Yes.
The Last of Us Factions has the best online multiplayer of any video game ever. And it is so good that when my editor / friend and I play, we search for lobbies separately. And there's so few people playing that it takes maybe like 2 or 3 minutes, so we can be on opposite teams. You can just like search for a match with a friend at the same time, and you will find each other, because at any given moment there's only like 50 people playing, but they're all for the most part level 999s who have been playing it nonstop since 2013 when it came out, myself included. Yeah, it is the best multiplayer ever. It is groundbreakingly good, even though it came out 8 years, or I guess 9 years ago. You have to play it, and if you play it, we will run into each other at some point, because there ain't that many people playing, and my PSN name is mrgirl.
Okay. And so you met him in this Factions thing, and
I want to get a bunch of Twitch streamers together to play Factions.
I'd be down.
Okay, I think this would be fucking magical, because you can do a private match, and it's also one of the most violent multiplayer games of all time.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, like people's heads getting partially shot off, and like people's intestines like popping out of their, like the graphics are obviously a little dated, but like it's fucking terrifying. When you first start playing, it's like terrifying and horrifically violent, and just amazing. It's like chess.
You sold me.
It's like violent chess. Yeah, you gotta try it. But yeah, let's play some Factions. I said I wouldn't game on my channel, but this is too exciting.
I'd be down. That sounds fun.
All right, cool.
Dope. Let me see here. I'll end with just one other kind of like thing that I'm curious about is the music. What is like the process like on this, and how do you decide what you're going to put out as far as music? Like, how do you pick a project to start on?
It kind of just happened because I was playing. I'm a big fat Smash player too. I was playing Super Smash Brothers Ultimate, and another friend of mine said my channel was banned, and he was like, "Dude, you should do." He was like, "What if you did he was like, "Don't do this," but like, what if you did a parody of Eminem's Criminal, but you said I'm a pedophile instead?" And I was like, "I'm going to do that." And he was like, "Don't do it, please don't." He was like, I shouldn't have said it because he's very worried about me and like the death threats, and he's like, "Please don't do this to yourself. Don't do this." And I was like, "I am 100% going to do it." And then I talked to my editor. He was like, "Well, yeah, let's see how it turns. Just try it and, like, see if it's good, And so I did it, and then everybody, like, everybody I showed it to was like, "Yeah, this is good." So, and then I got my channel back right after I finished editing it. YouTube was like, "Hey, we deleted your channel 4 months ago, but actually you can have it back now because you didn't break TOS." And then a bunch of people were I got a positive response, but a lot of people were like, "Well, you just took Eminem's lyrics and changed them," and then they're like, "You should do more parodies," or like, "You're like the Weird Al of rap." And then I was like, "Fuck you! I'm gonna make my own real rap song." And actually, I had made one other rap song on my channel a few years, I think in 2019. I made one that not that many people like. Oh yeah, and then I made another video called "Don't Vote." I was training one of my clients in the gym, and I was like, I want to make a rap song about why black people shouldn't vote. And she was like, okay. And I was like, this is gonna be great. And I was like, you don't like, I see it all now. And it just like, so yeah, I guess it was my third song was "I'm a Pedophile," but it was obviously like the most successful. And then "Don't Vote" though is pretty good. I'm not, it
How
slept
did
on.
you produce it at such a high quality, not being somebody who normally does music and stuff?
Oh, the album?
Yeah.
Um, I make most of the music in my videos. I make almost all of it.
Oh, I
Um,
had no idea.
yeah, so I just made I've been making music and making music like on computers since I was like in middle school. Or maybe
Yeah.
I guess elementary school really. Yeah, so not super consistently, but like I played drums. I was in a jazz band in high school, and I took piano lessons. So I enough to like you know do what I did, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, being in jazz band, what did you think of the movie Whiplash? Have you caught that? Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, Whiplash is great. Nothing. I mean, nothing like the jazz band I was in. The jazz band I was in was like, will you guys stop playing like rap songs or rock songs and like play the fucking jazz song? Uh, yeah, and I'd be like, can we do like a jazz version or Latin version of "Cleaning Out My Closet"? Like, just trying to convince them to let us do more interesting shit. But Whiplash is great. Yeah.
Dope. I know that Steven likes that movie too, so if you guys talk again, that might be interesting to hear you both kind of go back and forth on, because he has a lot of experience with music. And
Yeah, that would be interesting. I feel like we'd just agree though, but I feel like yeah, I should talk about movies with him sometime.
actually,
I want.
seeing you two do duets and stuff would be cool, because he rarely has any other streamers that he can actually make music with, and he really
I'm
likes
not
that.
good enough to duet live.
Ah, okay.
I need heavy editing and yeah, especially now I'm like super out of practice. It was kind of
Uh,
disturbing trying to play keyboard and be like I can't make my hands do. Like I actually got better over the course of making the album, but like no, 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 no.
do you feel like music influences your art at all, or your experience with music does? Like, does that have an impact on your takes? And
Yeah, I think so. I'd like in my video essays where like I use movie clips, I'm always very conscious of the music in there and how it's all like fitting together.
hmm,
Yeah, and like I listen to a lot of movie soundtracks and
what are like some of your favorites?
that my chat was asking me this the other day. I think I like Hans Zimmer a lot. He's like the main guy, but I like him a lot. Um,
Hmm.
Interstellar's really good. Silence of the Lambs. I like The Fly. I like Howard Shore. I
Ooh,
mentioned Howard Shore on my album. I like him so much. Um, mm, I like the Serpico soundtrack a lot. That's pretty cool.
Serpico.
Yeah, it's an Al Pacino movie about. It's a true story, based on a true story. Should check out Serpico. It's like,
Yeah,
yeah, it's like 70s kind of paranoia funk, I guess. I don't know what to call it.
interesting. It's got 90% on Rotten Tomatoes.
It's
So,
very good. It's
I'll put this aside.
Sidney Lumet directed it, right?
Let me see here. Yes.
Yeah.
And then the music is by Mikis Theodorakis.
Yeah, I can't remember his name because of that.
Awesome. Any music that you're working on presently, secretly or otherwise, or no?
I'm thinking of working on a wide-ranging, playful diss track.
Who is going to be on this?
I don't know. I don't know. I've written a couple verses. I need to see how it turns out. I've made music that I'm just like, I didn't figure this one out, so I don't want to like promise it, but I'm playing around with it.
Okay, I look forward to it. I've enjoyed your raps and stuff. I think they're awesome. I even got in trouble for playing it on stream and lost all my revenue.
Oh, well, thank you for the donation.
Not a problem. I've supported the arts.
Yeah, that kind of sucks because like I want people to be able to like play it, but the distributor is gonna claim everything for sure.
Yeah.
That's not me.
Oh,
but they're doing it on my behalf, and then they keep 20%.
Interesting. August, Destiny's editor, put your music at the beginning of one of your guys' last videos, and I appreciated that. Cool.
I appreciate it too. I don't know if it got claimed, but if it did, then that's probably the most money my music has ever made in one day for sure. Is gonna be that. So thank you. Keep doing that. Everybody, start your videos with my music on any major social media platform.
That's secretly your goal, is to get everybody to play your music on stream for a video.
No, I actually feel guilty when it happens, but I'm like, I mean, it is my music, so like, you know, it is copyrighted material.
Yeah, like when it happened, I was like, oh, of course, it's gonna fucking get claimed like any other track. I just wasn't thinking about
it. It is
that.
real music.
Yes.
With real consequences if you steal it. You wouldn't copyright infringe a car. So.
Like, you know, what do you mean?
Oh, back in the day, before movies, there was these anti-pirating ads, and they would like, there are like a couple different ones where they would say you wouldn't steal a car, you wouldn't blah blah blah, and then it's like downloading movies is the same, and then like people like as a joke say like you wouldn't download a car. Yeah.
Okay. I think I've heard this with sneakers before. You wouldn't download like sneakers or
exactly.
Something.
Yeah, they're referencing this. It's probably like the early 2000s. They're like trying to get people to stop pirating shit.
Unsuccessfully, unfortunately, or not. At least now you can get the money from it on YouTube. That's kind of cool.
Yeah. I think streaming, just making it more convenient to just pay the $10 a month, I think is what won in the end.
Yeah, and they're not like goofy, spoofy, like cheesy songs either. They're like legitimately musically enjoyable. Like I would recommend it to other people. If you guys haven't heard any of Mr. Girl's discography, like I would encourage you to. I mean,
thank you.
Like, yeah, like it's enjoyable. I had it on in the background while I was doing prep when I woke up today, so I was actually listening.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
I appreciate that. I imagine you have less problems with my presentation in a rap song, even if it is provocative.
Yeah, because contextually. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Alrighty. Well, I'll let you enjoy the rest of your New Year's Eve, unless there's anything else.
Oh yeah, it's New Year's Eve. I fucking forgot. Okay, it's time to drink some sparkling cider with Shaylin. No, that's it. Oh wait, how old are you?
I am 24.
Okay. That's it. I was just curious because you didn't understand the pirating thing reference. Well, I'm not surprised by your answer. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I was just curious. Okay. Thanks for having me.
Do you feel comfortable having a conversation again? Do you feel like I was fair and?
Yeah. I'm not fucking with you. I want to play Last of Us, and like, yeah, we can talk again in the future. I think we had some conflict. I don't want you to talk about me in the chat while you're talking to me, but not to the point where if you said you're going to do it again, I would, I'd still talk to you, but I don't like it. But yeah, other than that, I had a good time, and I appreciate the conversation. Yeah,
All right. I
I
pinky
feel
promise I won't do it again.
okay. Well, I appreciate that too. All right, I'll see you later.
Bye. Thanks for chatting.
Bye. All right, I'm gonna talk to you guys briefly. Thank you. And then disconnect. All right, what's going on in the chat here? Imagine allowing this mod. Boundaries. Good stream. Thank you. I did not destroy him. We had a good conversation, and I think we're figuring out how we're gonna be friends. How am I doing? It makes me nervous when I think the person's gonna Vosh me. You guys made me a bit nervous saying that, and I don't, even though it makes for funny content, I think ultimately it's just like embarrassing, and it hurts my feelings. Weirdly, I was like pretty upset after the Vosh thing, which I know is going to be super irritating to anybody who thinks it's my fault, but I was upset. So like I don't want shit to go like that. I think you can have an interesting stream without it getting derailed. So yeah, I'm doing good. It's also, streaming is exhausting, but yeah. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Happy New Year. Can you confirm that your cats' names are Cock and Balls? Yes, my cats are named Cock and Balls. That is true. They're both girls, and they're I don't know what else to say. Am I looking to do this stuff long term? I think once I quit my job, my Patreon doubled last night. Thanks to a couple particularly generous people. So that's exciting and nice and a good sign. But I don't, even if it gets to, so my goal is $2,000 a month. Even if I get there, having like it up to a few people, whether they can just like suddenly take that away, is a little nerve wracking. So what I want to do is get some kind of solid, reliable income from these various sources, so I can't get banned from Spotify or banned whatever, destroyed. And then yeah, I think I'll stream twice a week regularly. Definitely once a week. I definitely want to do my advice and confessions with Mr. Girl on Sundays. That's the plan. And then if I can keep streaming with other people or do a regular other thing, yeah, twice a week. And then if I don't have my job, then I will be able to do that and YouTube, because it doesn't take me too long to make YouTube videos, but I need those hours. What I'm doing now it's a lot, obviously. Since I was a bit busy, am I a fan of post-rock? I don't know what post-rock is. I gently spread his mind's lobes wide open, and as he spread mine. Who am I talking to next? Let's check. Let's check the schedule. I think I just I don't know. I'm playing video games with Lauren Southern on Monday. I think we're playing Call of Duty. That's the plan. I want to talk to Destiny soon if he'll have me. I want to have a consent debate with him, because he was talking smack, and not really, but hopefully Destiny soon. And then who's that guy from last night? Rhizome? and then I don't know. You'll see. I'm talking to a bunch of people. Can't wait for me to get a sub button. Yeah, I have to stream 7 times. That's part of why I'm streaming so much now. Is I'm like, I just want to get the thing. Bro, set up Streamlabs donations. I tried to today. I thought I did. Is it not appearing on my channel? I don't know. I'm stupid. I don't know how it works. But yeah, I'll get this. I tried to do it in like 10 minutes before I started, but I'll try to do that. What headphones am I using? I would recommend them. We 1000X. They're Sony's. Yeah, they're good. Do I know any music theory? No, not really. Jazz band experiences. I don't. I don't think. I think it would be Destiny talking about his jazz band experiences and me. Like, it would be interesting, but I don't know enough about it. So we start asking to talk now for the Sunday stream? I don't know. I guess you might as well. I think we need to come up with a system. Baby, if you're watching this, come up with a system. Yeah, the sub button's coming. I am your role model. Well, I don't know how to feel about that. Call and stream once a week. Yeah, that's happening. Talk to Infrared. I don't know who that is, but I'm open to it. I don't want to talk about what I do at my main job. I joke about wanting people to get me fired, but I don't. I would rather control that myself. Yeah, I'm not going to dual stream on YouTube. I understand. Thank you. What's the difference between sexuality and fetishes for you? Asking because I think you conflate the two. That's a good question. I think experientially, I have found fetishes to be more intense, kind of a sharp spike in interest and about a more specific. And I guess I don't know. I guess I don't know. I think a fetish is like a specific interest in a certain thing, not necessarily a person, a specific act or thing. And I think sexuality is more like how you tend to respond to different types of people and what you tend to be interested in regarding who you're going to be with. So I guess that's what it would be. Sexuality is more about people, and fetishes are more about things. Like for my fetishes, it doesn't matter as much who the person is. It's more like the thing, what we're gonna do. I have a Discord. Yeah, I'll put an invite in the chat right now. We can have a influx of people if you guys want to jump in. Did I invite you to the right Discord? Yes. Would I tell after if I quit the job? Well, I'll tell you. Oh yeah, what the job was. Yeah, I don't want to say the specific like company because I don't want people to fuck with them. I like my boss. Wicked Supreme. I have made a plan to talk to. Are relevant. I think we're talking, or maybe I don't remember if we made plans to talk, but I feel like we're gonna run into each other. Infrared is pretty much a troll. I feel like they wouldn't want honest discussion. Okay, well, okay. Jack Murphy. Yeah, I would love to talk to Jack Murphy. If I would in good faith love to talk to Jack Murphy about like what his experience is and like kind of defend him or like empathize with him in a way. What I think of asexuals, do I think they're real? No. Not in a way that it's framed. I don't think anybody has like an innate lack of sexuality. I think it's like a repression or extreme discomfort or something, and that can mean that you live that way, and that's fine. It's not. I don't think it's wrong. I just don't. Sometimes it is framed as I am just innately non-sexual, and I I don't believe that. Chat with a turf. I would love to. That's a good idea. I don't know if any turfs. I'm sure there's turf Twitch stream. I don't know anything about Twitch, but that's a good idea. I think fetishes are drastically different from one's own sexuality, and you tend to conflate the two in order to justify your definition of pedophilia because you're afraid to admit that pedophilia is not on the sexual spectrum. I don't think, when you say the sexual spectrum, if you just mean what we consider normal orientations, like straight, gay, bi, pan, whatever, I don't think pedophilia is one of those. So I agree with you there. I think what I think is that pedophilia is a different spectrum, ranging from very little interest in children to a lot of and exclusive interest in children. I agree that they're not co-mingled or necessarily like dependent on each other. So if I gave you that impression, then I was wrong. I will play The Last of Us on stream eventually. Yeah, I think so. I think so. Okay. I am gonna go start my New Year's. Happy New Year's to you guys. Goodbye, horses. Thank you for watching my stream.